What's up, everybody? How are you today? Happy Wednesday. February is flying, and life is what it is. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad for. First, let me just say thank you all. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host Kevin Branzetti today. And let me ask Kevin first. How you doing today, Kevin? How you feeling, brother?
I'm doing well, doing well. I'm enjoying a little bit warmer today, so that's nice.
Yeah. It was a good look. It was a good look. For all those that don't know, we're on YouTube and we're on Facebook Live. If you subscribe to it, if you watch it on YouTube, tell a friend, share it. If you watch it on Facebook, however you're doing it, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But first, let me introduce a good brother to the community, a friend of mine. What's up, Kenny? I see you, everybody. Thank you for chiming in. I see all you coming in. I got a brother, a well-respected brother in the Harlem community. Maybe I'm not going to just cheat him with Harlem. I'm going to say New York community. That he's joining us tonight. Like I've always extended the olive branch to anybody. You're always welcome to come in and ask to be a part of the dais and the panel. And we sit here and we just have real talk. Real Talk is an opinionated show with a lot of factual stuff that we throw out. But the thing is, we have good conversation, and that's what we do. So everybody, you are always welcome to join a panel like today. I got my brother Richard Williams in the building. What's up, good Rich? Big Rich.
Hey, what's going on, man? Brother
How you feeling, man?
How you doing, Kevin?
Doing well, Rich. Doing well.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, man. And you know, we got some good conversation today, brother. First and foremost, please introduce yourself and let everybody know the things that you have done in the Harlem community and stuff of that magnitude. And for those that don't know you and the people that do know you, because you'll see a lot of people that chime in because you're worldly. A lot of people know you. So just introduce yourself and tell people what you do and what you have done.
Well, I don't know about that worldly stuff.
I'm gonna give it to you.
But, I just want to thank you for inviting me on the show to be a part of this this great thing that you're doing in the community.
Thank you, brother.
My name is Richard Williams. Just to give you a little something about myself. I've had a career with the Department of Education for 35 years. I worked in alternative ed, special ed. I've also worked with social services for children. I used to be a group home supervisor right there on 127th Street between 7th and Lenox, right up the street from the mosque. I did that for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And that was dealing with what they considered to be hard to place children. And these were young adolescents that were in and out of the system, that were blackballed. Other group homes didn't want to take them because they were private. We just those kind of kids, and we serviced those kids. And I also did a tenure with South Bronx Job Corps vocational training program located in the Bronx. I did recreational specialist with that program. I worked with Harlem Congregation for Community Improvement. I worked for various organizations, Boys and Girls Harbor on 104th Street, alongside the late, great Al Hunter. And I'm just saying all that to say that my career is just wrapped around doing community work and working with at-risk youth. I presently have a nonprofit organization I started called Street Book Inc. And that was kind of born out of, I think, a necessity to mentor our young men and women that, for the most part, don't have that strong male figure or woman figure in their life. Me, myself, my father wasn't around most of my childhood, you know, and I looked to different men that I recognized as being mentors. And I tried to model some of that behavior, you know, to get me through life. And I think that's important that we help our youth, our young men and women to have that experience, to share what you know and what you have to offer. I mean, I grew up in the Polo Grounds, and at a time where everybody's mother was your mother. Everybody's father was your father. The community embraced each other. If somebody was short in their rent, we used to have rent parties, to help that person pay their rent. Your mother was mine. If they saw me out of pocket, they would check me just like, my own mother. There was a level of respect that's missing today in our community. And a lot of stuff is going on. It needs to get dialed back to what did work, and I can go on and on, so.
No, well, that's awesome, man. And I think a lot of what you are doing and what you said will segue into my conversation going forward. Crime is off the chain. You were raised by a village. I was raised by a village, especially when we at these beautiful ages. Oh, first and foremost, everybody. Oh, how could I go without mentoring the sponsors? First and foremost, I have to mention my lovely wife art gallery, sponsored by Soft Illusions. For those, please, if you want to give calendars or other assorted gifts, my wife has a beautiful art gallery. Her and her mother, they share their stuff. They do their work. Please check the website. We're also sponsored by the Deadly Arts of Survival magazine. I had to do something with this lighting.
Yeah.
And let me take this off real quick. Let's see. The Deadly Arts of Survival magazine. 3 editions right now. Shout out to my man Nathan Ingram. And of course, I am in one of the magazines. So if you want to know about my history in the martial arts and in law enforcement, you're more than welcome to get this magazine and check the brother out. You can get it on Amazon. It's the #1 martial arts selling magazine right now, and the 4th edition is coming. Shout out to everybody that's chiming in. Colin, I see you. Stefania, Norman Davis. What's up, everybody? Kenny Harris. We talk about a village. Right now, crime is off the chain. 125th Street, there was a shooting there today. There's the youth are just doing it, a lot of gang stuff. Police are not liked. And I'm going to ask you later on about what you think in regards to that. Kevin and I have talked about this. But first and foremost, what do you think we need to do to get our youth back to acting more? And I'm going to use this word for please people out there, don't get all upset, but I'm saying more civilized, more under control. Can it be mental illness? Yes, but there isn't a village anymore. The village is scared to reach out to the kids. Kids are shooting people. They're carjacking. This crime is just out of control. But maybe if we can start and get the kids in more organized situations, and like you said about father figures, because growing up in the communities, Kevin's father was my father. Your father was my father. Your mother was my mother. My parents would tear my ass up if your mother walked down the street with some groceries, a bag of groceries, and I didn't help them. And or things of that magnitude. Or walk. Let me tell you something. I won't reveal his name, but a notorious street dude used to say, "Yo, man, I miss your mother so much. I used to help her with her bags down the street. I used to walk her down the street to make sure she was good, even though the community knew who she was." But he said he took it as a badge of honor, especially when his mother transitioned. He would walk my mother down the street. There are people right now, I remember people that were on drugs that used to say, yo, I loved your family. So I say all that to say there was a certain code. No matter what you did in the street, you kind of didn't do it on your block. The drug game changed when people started selling on their block, but they still have respect for the adults on that block. What do you think should be, if you could talk to the mayor or you talk to your assemblyman, or, we just had Mr. Bragg on, the Manhattan District Attorney. What would be some of the things that you say? I had Mark Levine, the borough president. He may be listening sometimes. What would be something that you would try to implement or suggest in how to get the youth back on the right track? And I'll start with you, Richard, and I'll go to Kevin.
Oh man, where do I start?
Wherever you want, brother. Wherever you want.
Well, let me go back to the beginning of when you first asked, the first question that kind of went into this other stuff. I grew up at a time, and I'm 61. I'll be 62 in July.
Mhm.
I'm a 60s baby. I grew up in the 60s, right? And a lot of things were going on back then pertaining to the street, right? Now, I didn't grow up with my father, but my father was around, right? And when I say that, I mean, I saw him, but he didn't play any active part in my life.
Mhm.
My mother broke up with him because he used to be in the service. We came up here from North Carolina. He got a job with the post office. We lived up on 147th between 147 between Amsterdam and Broadway. And my father decided he wanted to start taking numbers, and he wanted to be a street guy. And my mother wasn't with that. He had a whole bunch of other issues, but she wasn't with that, so they broke up. But during that era, in the 60s, 70s, the streets were ran by older people. For better or worse, the hustlers and the underworld ran your neighborhood, meaning that a young person, like the kids that are out here now, they didn't allow them to come out on the street and sell nothing and do nothing as far as crime wise. They encourage you to go to school. Go to school. They'll throw you a couple of dollars. Go to school.
Facts.
And the police department, there wasn't any mistakenly mistake this kid that was involved with nothing as being a part of the street. There was a code in the street where the hustlers actually policed your neighborhood. The police really didn't have to do that unless they were dealing with the hustlers and that element.
Absolutely.
So the crime world back then had a code, So if a guy was selling dope or whatever he's selling on the corner, and a dope addict came to buy those drugs, he couldn't hit somebody in the head in that neighborhood where he was purchasing those drugs.
Absolutely.
He would come, get it, and leave. Because even though they sold it to you, they wouldn't allow you to do things like that in that neighborhood to get that money because they knew everybody, right? When we moved into the Polo Grounds at a time in the 60s, we moved in there at 68. The Polo Grounds and all projects had housing police that were actually stationed in the project. Drew Hamilton, Polo Grounds, Lincoln Project, all these projects had precincts inside of the project, right? And what you also had was a support system in a project that the police collaborated with, which was the Tenants Association. So you had a tenants association, you had floor captains on every floor in the building.
That's old school. Yes, that's old school.
And if you lived on that floor, you knew everybody on your floor. You talked to them, you communicated with them, you dressed up your floor during holidays.
Yes.
If there was a parent who had to work late and that kid got off from school, they would say, hey, go to Miss Jones's house till I get home. And Miss Jones would feed you and take care of you. We had a curfew, and it wasn't imposed by the city. It was imposed by your parent.
Absolutely.
When that street light comes on, have your butt in his house, right? And they had BCW back then. It wasn't ACS. They called it BCW.
BCW.
Right?
Yes.
And these were agencies that would come to make sure that the children were being taken care of and things of that nature. And I went to school at a time when I went to, they called it Frederick Douglass Academy. We called it IS-10 back then. It was on 148th Street, 149th Street and 7th. And the teachers had rulers on their table wrapped up in a rubber band. They were able to discipline you in school, right? Certain laws came about where you couldn't discipline your child. You couldn't be disciplined in school. You can go to a group home. They would take you from your family and put you in a group home.
Yes.
It was reported that you got a spanking or a beating, or they would consider that as child abuse. So I came up in an era where, you were disciplined, physically. It wasn't abuse,
No, no.
Not in my opinion.
It wasn't in mine either.
Right? But those kind of structures kept things in place. And certain things started happening. And I gotta go to the Rockville Law when I mentioned that the hustlers would encourage you to go to school. When Rockville Law came out, they talking about giving these hustlers 25 years of life, right? So what they did is that they said, okay, let me get that young kid to sell this before he goes to school now. So now they get the young kids incorporated in it. And that was a decision made by the older guys because they didn't want to go to jail all that time.
Absolutely.
You grab a young guy before you go to high school, yo, here, take this pack, sell it, then go to school. So that gave the young population a taste of the street now where they wasn't getting that before.
Absolutely.
So then that started to progress when the 80s rolled in. When the 80s rolled in, crack hit, right? And then other laws changed, like you can't discipline your child and the teachers can't check you. And welfare became a thing where, because I remember my mother used to be on it at one time, where they used to, like Claudine, like the movie Claudine.
I just watched it the other day.
Iron, you couldn't have a telephone, you couldn't have a television set. And I remember when they would come, we would take the stuff to the neighbor's house so they wouldn't see it, right? And that changed because it wasn't something that was designed for you to stay on it. It was something that was supposed to be designed for you to be on it till you could step up and move on. Same thing with projects. Projects were never designed for you to stay there. It's like, it's affordable so you can get yourself together so you can move out. Because initially they were designed for whole families. You had to have a mother and father. I mean, a father and mother, right? Mm-hmm. And then the families started breaking up and they had to start accepting single families.
Yes, yes.
And I was one of those single families, but I benefited from all the other families that were already there that had fathers and mothers, right? But going back to what I was saying with how things just started to change and deteriorate, and it's not one thing, it's a combination of things.
Yes.
In the polo grounds, we had laborers that worked in for housing that were plumbers, electricians, carpenters. They actually lived in the projects, right? So if something happened during the course of the day or whatever, you didn't have to put a ticket in. You go downstairs and knock on Boo's door and say, yo, Boo, I got a leak. And he said, okay, I'll be up there in a minute. And they would come up there and fix it and then submit the ticket for you later, right? That's changed. The interior of the projects has deteriorated. Then Giuliani came in and consolidated the transit, the housing, and all of them under one budget, moved the housing police out of the projects. And those precincts are still there, but they closed them down. So yes. They moved them out. So there was no real connection with the cops that came later. Because even to today, you have some PSA 6 and other housing police that still police the project, but it's different. You know, I see a lot of times they coming in and they rolling in their cars. They're not actually walking.
Right.
Drive through a couple of times. They might get out, go in the building and do a vertical and then come back and get back in the car. And they're not familiar with the kids that live there. You know, back then, a cop could call your name, like say, yo, man, what you doing, Richard? What you doing? Who's that with you? Because they know that kid that's with me didn't live here.
Absolutely.
And because they called my name and they asking me that question, it wouldn't be out of place for somebody to say, oh, yo, how you know your name? He must be a snitch. No, he know your name too.
Exactly.
But that was a connection we had with the officers that policed our community. We knew them. We had nicknames for them. Whether we liked them or not, that didn't matter. And they used discretion when they were dealing with you. If you were out of pocket doing something wrong, they didn't lock you up. Depending on what you did, they would take you to your house.
Yes.
Because they knew where you lived at.
Absolutely.
And turn you over to your parent. This means you didn't get a record, you know, nothing on your record and nothing like that. And they use that discretion. And that's removed. Right?
Let me just interject for 1 second. I just want to give some shout outs to some people real quick because I see them in here and I want to show, because first I have my childhood friend, Todd Hunter, happy birthday. and have Claudia. She just lost her brother. Condolences. But going on what you're saying about parents and stuff like that, Todd and I grew up together. He knew my parents. I knew his family. Claudia, her mother was very instrumental in our grammar school, Our Lady of Lourdes on 143rd. My man Jesse King is another person that's an advocate for helping kids in the street. My martial arts brother, he has a school up in the Bronx. So I co-sign everything that you're saying right now, and that is the thing. But the one thing too, and I'm gonna defer to Kevin right now because I want to hear his take, and then I'll bring it back to you, Rich. Is that the fact? And Dean is in the building. Lou, what's happening, everybody? Shout out to everybody that's chiming in. Sai is another advocate person, part of the community. He does a lot of stuff, especially with the basketball youth and things of that magnitude. Kev, what's your take on this? Because you're a product of an inner city kid too. That just you had the same thing in Queens. So, and then we'll go back to Rich. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny listening to you. It was it was my childhood as well, right? Everybody knew you. Every neighbor knew you. Every neighbor knew your family. You couldn't get away with something on the street, certain things, but your parents were going to find out. No ends, ifs, or buts. And I don't know where it all went. And and Richard, you talk beautifully about it. I don't know how we get back there. I don't know how we turn this around to where it is a community again, where Queens, Harlem, doesn't make a difference to me, where we're all communities again, looking out for each other.
Yeah.
Now I feel like if I there are times you could tell a parent your kid did something, they get mad at you, right? Like it's like it's the teacher punishing the kid. What did that teacher do? Is now became a parent response as opposed to what did my kid do?
Yeah, yeah, and
if I yell at somebody else's kid, that father's coming after me.
Yeah, it happens. It's real disrespectful right now. I mean, you can't even do that. Listen, when I was teaching in the Harlem Children's Zone, people would come to me and tell me about the kids because I taught there. It was a difference. I taught martial arts, but it was another thing that they tried to make martial arts a discipline. Martial arts was great. It was disciplinary, had a disciplinary overtone, but any sport that you played had some kind of discipline in it. Basketball, right now they've taken push-ups out of the school. If you do that, that's punishment. That's abuse. Like, wait a minute, push-ups build up your arm strength.
I used to make my kid. I coached hockey for a while. I made all my kids do push-ups.
Yeah,
they did lots of push-ups.
And that's the thing. Push-ups was a thing of like, oh, you talking, you can't sit still. Your mouth is moving.
Yeah,
I got something for you.
You got some energy?
Yeah,
give me 20.
That's what I used to do to my kids. Instead of me putting my hands on them, I'd make them do exercise.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a quick story. I remember when I was at a hockey game, my friend was reffing the game, and they were like 10-year-olds, maybe they're 12. They're fighting. So he grabbed each kid by the jersey and just pulled them backwards from each other. The father came out of the stands and went after the ref for touching his kid. All he did was grab the two by the jerseys, separate them so they couldn't hit each other anymore, did the right thing. And the dad, instead of being like, grabbing their kid afterwards and go, what are you doing? That's not how you play the game. Went after the ref. And then he went to the police precinct to file charges.
Silly.
Like we've gone completely backwards in this
now I want to segue into something, but I just got to give my little brother a shout out, Reggie Bullock. He's doing good things. He has a documentary out on Michael, Look Up Sledge. Reggie, I'm going to get you and Michael on the show.
Oh, that's my dude.
Yeah.
Michael
So
Sledge.
definitely, Michael Sledge, phenomenal brother, Hall of Fame guy. And Reggie did a YouTube show. He did a documentary on Michael, and then it's phenomenal. And it tells how Michael went from being a little kid, being pushed around and pumped, to a gold medal winner in martial arts, fighting for the AAU team around the world. So I definitely got to get Reggie and Michael on to talk about that documentary. But now let's segue into what we have now. We understand, like Stefania said, I don't think we'll ever get back to that way of unfortunately. And Claudia said, right, Kevin, we have to bring the community back. We want that back. I think everybody that's listening, I think for the seniors or the elders, the OGs, whatever the people want to call us right now, we understood that was a way of bringing up children. You know, you also, Rich, you talked about how things would change under Giuliani and what other administration, we couldn't even reprimand our kids anymore. Now we have kids out of control, and there's law enforcement has lost a lot of respect. Some warranted, some not, right? Because like I say all the time, Kevin and I will sit here and dissect certain police issues a lot of times. And Kevin is a stone cold belief of he says it every show whenever he gets a chance. If we talk about some police stuff, he hates bad policing. You know, Kevin is here because I know he's a good person and I know he was a good officer. Sometimes we'll differ on what we see and what we don't see. That's fair, because this show is not about agreeing all the time. Nobody here has to agree. You know, Richard and you and I, we talked earlier about something and you was like, well, I don't want this. I said, wait a minute, hold it for the show. You know what I'm saying? Because not everybody's going to agree on everything, you know, and you had said something that was so similar to what Kevin had said. So that's why I want you to hold that when you said about when you look at videos and stuff, certain things can be lost. And Kevin is always talking about timestamps. You know what I'm saying? I always tease Kevin about timestamps. So with that being said, right now we just lost, I think, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 or 8 officers have been shot in New York City alone. And I know you get stats. I was talking to somebody else that gets stats all the time. Officers are getting shot all over the place, God forbid. We've, you know, and Richard, you and I, Kevin, we've all grew up in an era where, and you're older than us, a little older than me, but we knew that nobody at a time, it was a no-no to shoot a cop, a police officer. Let's be fair. It was a no-no to shoot a police officer. Now, people are wearing it like a badge of honor and they don't care. Officers have tactically lost their edge due to political feelings. They've stopped policing the way they should. They're acting in the past instead of in the present. And Kevin and I know exactly what that means. I'm sure you know that too, because the bottom line is when Kevin and I were working in the 2-8 precinct, we would go out and we would look to solve a crime or prevent it. Right now, officers are reacting to it happened, okay, and they take it this manner. I don't agree with it. Oh, I don't want to lose my job, so I'm not going to do anything. We got to change that policy. I think the new police commissioner is on it. I think the mayor has advocated to public safety. So we have them in the right frame of mind. Right now, I don't know if the city is lost. 125th Street is like becoming an OK corral. There was a shooting the other day. There was a shooting today in a storefront. There was a fight yesterday in front of the store building. There's this crime. There's shooting all over the cities. You know, carjacking, everything is crazy. I'm asking you, Richard, and I'll start with you, Kevin. Norman, I see your comment. You said, for me growing up in Queens, we had 30 mothers on different color. We respected. We never get back to the way things were. Keep hearing all the powers to be just talking a good game, just to keep money in the pocket. Shout out to my brother Norman, my college basketball brother. I see Brenda. I see your sister Brenda in the building. So let me ask you, Kevin. Then I'll come to you, Richard. Because I wanted to say that because we lost 2 young officers in the Harlem community. And I said this on previous shows. That was me. That was Kevin. We were young, 22-year-old kids. Tactically, there isn't anything I felt they could have done differently besides tell that mother, go get the son. But still, he was coming out blazing. So we still would have got hit. We still would have got shot. So tactically, and I've always been sound on tactics. That has been my forte in law enforcement. I tell people all the time, there isn't anything I think could have prevented that situation. But we had people of color that got killed. How do we get the police and the communities back? How do we get the respect back for law enforcement to do their jobs properly? Kevin and you and I have talked about this. We need special training. I'm going to reach out to the mayor. I got to, or whomever's in charge, to talk about, bringing some of us back to train these guys, because they're looking lost. They're really looking lost. But Kevin, go ahead, take it from there, and then Rich follow up on that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things that need to get done. But first and foremost is both sides have to be talking, right? You lose track of the community you're working for or working with. I don't even know which is the right phrase there. You're working for, you're working with them, right? You have to talk to people. It becomes very simple as a cop, right? I go out every day. I just answer jobs. I run to things. And I don't get to meet and talk to people and humanize with them and then empathize with them. And it changes how you do things. It changes how you react to people. Richard, you mentioned before about discretion. That word, we taught that in the academy, but it was really just for summonses. But discretion goes beyond summonses, right? You have to have discretions for kids. You have to have, different ways of doing it. My old partner and I, we used to arrest kids. We arrested a lot of juveniles for robbery and things along those lines, and selling crack. A lot of them selling crack. And we used to have just a simple policy that we would, the mom would come in, and unfortunately, it was usually just the mom. And I wanted the kid to tell the mother the truth. Because the kid always was like, I didn't do it. Cop set me up, or it was Johnny, somebody, other excuse. But it was more important to me than the case was that mom knew the truth. Because mom can't fix what she don't know, right? You can never fix that. So I would tell her, I said, look, I had a choice between sending that kid to Spotsford or let him go home. And I told him, I said, the only way I'm sending you home is if you tell your mother the truth. I'm not going to read you your rights. So whatever you say, I can't use. It's inadmissible in court. Because I didn't read you your rights. You don't have, an attorney, nothing. But it's more important. And every single time we did that, I'm telling you, that kid told their mother the truth.
Absolutely.
And mom, went from defensive to tears. But now she had a chance because she knew the truth about her son. And I said that was far more important. You can hear my little ones running.
Yeah, I hear it.
That to me is far more important than putting the kid in Spotsford, than having a family court trial and all these other things. Mom has to know, what's going on. Absolutely. So we need a better system of how we think about our youth, how we work with them, how we interact with them as police officers. Yeah. There's nothing in the patrol guide that allows me to take a kid, put him in cuffs, and bring him home. Right? If I take a kid and put him in cuffs, like he's arrested and I got to bring him to the precinct.
Right.
And then to avoid. But there is a moment when I should be grabbing his little behind and saying, here you go. Yeah. Or I could bring him to the precinct and have mom come meet him. And there is no, there's a juvenile report or something real simple and go home. But we don't look at it that way. We were kind of very number oriented. We became, CompStat was good for certain things, but it became the focus. And it was just number, and forgetting what we were trying to do. Mm-hmm. Which is, change people, help people, right?
It became a business. It became a business, a terrible business. And
there was no thinking.
Yeah. I'm going to bring you in, Rich. I just want to read some comments real quick. Stefania said, the reason why we can't get back to the way things were is because more people are against the old school ways than those that are for it. She also says, then you have the generational issues that are cycling through. And she also says, on top of that, you have parents that are doing the same thing their kids are, whether it's screaming or drugs or whatever it is. Chuck Sam, what's up, my brother? How are you? He said, wow, Kevin, that approach is radical and a true way of supporting the community you serve. Bless you, brother. Thank you. Rich, so, what's your thought process, brother?
Oh, man, my thought process is all over the place, but I'm trying to home it in right now.
Well, we got some time, so you can share it and bring it back.
For me, it's all about the breakdown of the family. Right. And that sounds like a catchy phrase, but the truth is that it is a breakdown of the family. And I mean that community that we're talking about. I worked at Boys Harbor, and Boys Harbor had a program called Strengthening Families, right? And that program was that program was about once a month, the kids that were in the program, that were being counseled by the different people they were assigned to, would have conversations about what goes on at home, what the relationship is like with their parents. And it was about trying to bridge that relationship between the parent and the child that was in your program. Because a kid comes to your program, you drop them off, you leave them there, and then they go home.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what's going on in the house, all the work you put in the whole time you have this child can sometimes go down the toilet if you don't really have an idea of what's going on in that house. And then it was about bringing the parent in to have that discussion in those counseling sessions together as you being the advocate for the child also. And in a friendly way, just have an open discussion. And when it started out, we looked at what would be the obstacles that would prevent a parent from coming to the after school program after it's, because it would happen after 6, right? And how do we get the parent to leave work, possibly have 2 or 3 other kids at home that they got to get home to feed and take care of? How do we get them to come in? Because the parents would say, oh, well, I can't make it because, I don't have nobody to watch the kids I got, and I got to feed them, it's dinner time. So what we would do, we would order a meal, and I don't mean pizza. We would go out and get chicken parmesan, or pasta with shrimp in it, nice food. And we would have some counselors there that would take the kids that needed to be watched and would take them in another room and engage with them while we would have these sessions with the parents. And as a consequence, we got down to a lot of stuff that was going on in the household where parents needed services and they were struggling, trying to keep it all together, and we're living in a time where we got a lot of, and we've always had mental illness, but years ago they had a place where they would take these people and try to get services for them, but they emptied out all of the places where people were getting this mental help, and at that time back then, if somebody was on drugs, I remember when I was a kid, if somebody was on weed, I knew they were smoking weed. If they were smoking angel dust, I knew that was angel dust.
Absolutely.
If they was on heroin, I knew they was on heroin. You can identify what people are high off of. Now they got some stuff that I never even heard of. This K2 and this fentanyl and all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
I was walking down the street and the guy was on the floor banging his head against the concrete, and the cops were trying to stop him from banging his head. And it took about 5 cops just to stop him from hurting himself. So we're looking at a whole epidemic of new drugs, right? We're looking at a lot of stuff that we're faced with, but to try to get back to how do we fix this? We got to go back to what did work, right? We got to incorporate the family, evaluate the family as a whole by holding the parents responsible for their children while providing the services that they need to keep their kids and themselves on track. But there's got to be a certain level of accountability. There are things that were removed from the school system, like the vocational training. When I went to high school, they had the shop classes. They had electrical. They had wood shop. They had plumbing. They had all of these different fields that a lot of guys didn't even go to college. They went straight into the unions.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
They had the music classes where you have a career playing the trombone or any one of these instruments, formally trained in vocal skills. These things are far removed.
We had a school, excuse me, Rich, for interjecting. We had a school, music and art, where so many famous people came out of that. Yes, listen to that. Let me just read some comments real quick. I want you to keep that thought. My man Nemi, my former narco ranger brother, he said, Nemi Rodriguez, shout out to you, brother. I hope all is well. He said, the Boys Harbor is a great program. Piggybacking off what you were saying, Rich. He said, wish we had more of that. I met a lot of boys who were steered in the right direction and kept out of trouble. Absolutely. My man Norm, he said something I want to read, and it was kind of profound. Let me read what Chuck Sam said. Shout out to my man Chuck Sam. He said, Brother Bill Forster, my work in the past with the women and men rendering society from jail and prison, and you know what I'm doing now in Harlem and Washington Heights. Some major breakthroughs happening on the national level. We should talk real soon. We definitely will. I want to read what my man Norm said. Norm made a point. He said, we can never get back to the respect back He said, Bill, have you ever had a loudmouth say, if you didn't have that badge and gun, I'll beat your ass? I would come back after work or depending on the scene, I would take off my belt and badge and knuckle up after beating that ass. It was total respect. Listen, I got a story I want to tell you. I'm going to tell it real quick. I was in the Bronx doing narcotics, and guy was fighting. Make a long story short, we finally get him. Had his crew with him on the corner, and I was ghosting at the time. I'll explain ghosting if people don't know what it means later. And matter of fact, his partners, out of all the white officers, everybody else there, brother one that just started dogging me out. I became every Tom, Dick, and Harry, every sweetness and that and that, and he caught me. He hooked me. Yo, Rich, Kev, I couldn't take it anymore. So I was like, all right, you know how you just sit there and look at a cat and you like, So now I told my field team, yo, go ahead, break out. Everybody break out. So my cats was like, yo, Billy, what are you going to do? B. I said, listen, I got this. I got to do it this my way. I got to do it my way, right? So now the cats is looking and they're like, yo, what? It was in the 4-6 precinct. So we're watching all the cats. My man Jumbo stayed on the scene and watch it. So we watching all the cars drive away. So they're watching the cars drive away. So now when the cars drove away, I waited till they got down the block, wherever they were going away. I told them to go to the next set. I said, this won't be long. I got this. So I turned to the guy. I said, yo, my man, you were sitting there disrespecting me, calling me out my name in front of the white officers, calling me Tom, Dick, and Harry. You calling everything under the sun, right? I said, you got a nice mouth game. I need to see if your hand game is as good as your mouth. So he was like, what? So his crew was like looking, everybody's looking at me. And he said, so the other officer said, yo, he could see the neighborhood in my eye. I'm just going to put it right there. He could see the neighborhood in my eye. And I said, listen, he said, officer, you're not supposed to let him get you like that, right? I said, no. I said, don't stop me. You didn't stop him. Don't stop me. I said, I need to see if your hand game is as good as your mouth game. When that man saw that it was about to be that, he said, yo, I'm sorry. He said, I was just upset. That man trying to feed his family. I said, what the F you think I'm out here trying to do too? I said, yo, it's his job. This is cat and mouse, bro. I say, he's the mouse. I'm the cat. He got caught. It is what it is. He's a casualty of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But you're not going to sit here and just disrespect me. I remember in the 2-8, when I first started in the 2-8, shout out to the 2-8 family. I was on I think 127th Street, 28th, and cats, white officers, cab, they were arresting people doing their thing. I'm in the street just making sure, checking the perimeter. Dudes want to yell at me, calling me out my name. You'll sell out, you this and that. My man, shout out to my man Eddie Warren. He was like, yo, B, don't let them get to you. It's the beginning of the end. If you get hooked now, and because I was like, yo, Rich, Kev, I'm not used to nobody talking to me like that. Killers don't talk to me like that. I tell anybody, killers don't talk to me like that. So I just couldn't have, just because I had this uniform on, that you was just going to say all this disrespectful shit to me. And I'm in my mind, I'm working in a community not too far from where I live to come back and protect your punk ass, and you go sit here and give me the business. So just shout out to all the officers that's trying to do the right thing. And Norman, you're right. People get caught up. Bill, he says, I'm going to listen because I can't type fast enough. It's all good, Norm. I know you, because Norm, shout out. He's in North Carolina. He was a sheriff in North Carolina. I got to bring him on the show one day. Let me tell you, when he tells you the stuff, we talk sidebar, and he was telling me the stuff that he was going through. It's crazy. Claudia says the government doesn't want to help. They want to keep families broken. I totally agree with that, because there isn't any reason, what Kevin and Rich were saying earlier, that we can't go back to that. I don't understand how we lost it. I understand certain things, people have changed laws and took away us reprimanding our children and stuff like that. But listen, I grew up with an ass whipping, and damn sure no, it was good. And whatever little psychological problems we got from getting hit, you know what I'm saying? Listen, I'm good. I'm a law-abiding citizen. So if an ass whipping is going to make me a law-abiding citizen, then
Hey, Bill.
Go ahead.
Was an ass whipping.
Yo, it was official. Yeah. Listen, everybody, please, don't ever think that it wasn't an ass whipping. Ass whipping. When we said we got an ass whipping, it was good enough. It lasts you a year. And there was a time when I was averaging one a month. So I was tore up. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, listen. My mother always talked about, why you always talking about I beat you like that? I didn't beat you like that. And then I thought about it, and I said, no. When you did beat me, if you gave me a look, it felt like I got my butt whipped.
Yes.
Because it went from like.
yo, hey, Rich, Kev, you remember? Go ahead, Kev. I know you handling that. But what was the infamous thing for a old school parent? It doesn't even have to be what ethnicity was. Old school, when they go like this, you'd be like, oh, and don't wait. Go ahead, Kev.
Everybody had a look.
When they tell you, I'm gonna get.
It was like your parents were mad, and there was your dead.
Yo,
there was a look I got from my father, and that was the end.
Lord have mercy, man.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing.
Parents didn't hope you didn't do something wrong. They said, I wish you would.
Yeah,
and they meant it.
My mother used to say, I wish you would.
Yo, listen, man. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. Appreciate you all chiming in. I see you. I appreciate you all. If you like it and subscribe, if you watch it on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, share it. I always extend the olive branch. Kevin and I always do. And no matter any show that I have, I always extend the olive branch. We just had Assemblyman Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg on Monday with Assemblyman Al Taylor. This Monday coming up, we have Dr. Marilyn Corder. I'm probably going to ask her to talk about mental health issues because that's a topic that's very prevalent right now in the community. It seems like a lot of times things are happening. People getting pushed on trains and things of that magnitude. And, we have to discuss that because these people with mental illnesses need to be taken care of. They need to get off the street and we can get funded. I think Biden, he can take that 30 million and put into healthcare instead of putting in their crack pipes. You know what I'm trying to say? That's a whole nother topic, but we could talk about that too. With that being said,
well, I want to say something.
Sure, go ahead, brother, please.
Right. And it's kind of going back to what we were talking about, the community trying to fix itself by, going back to some community things that we would do, like try to help each other and all of that. Try to police your own neighborhood by coming out and being that presence in your neighborhood to kind of like curb some of this, calling the police officers or expecting them to get those kids to turn that radio down or get those kids to stop shooting dice in front of their building. If you communicated with your neighbor and had that unity and come together, we could do that as a community. But in the same token, a lot of the things that, and we talked about this, because when you talk about trying to get the community to start to develop a relationship with NYPD, right? That's something that's hard when you have the different parts of NYPD, like you got housing, you got transit, you got the precincts, and then you have those officers that do the narcotics and the undercover cops. So now the patrolman is walking down the street or in that community, and he's trying to develop this relationship with community affairs during these events and all that. Say, hey, the police are here for you, right? And that's true. So now that patrol car undercover comes through at night, creeping through, and they see a group of guys in the street that they appear to be doing something wrong. And then they jump out on them, hoodies on, sometimes badges out, most times not, guns showing, and it's 5 dudes looking like thugs rolling up on you. And then they treat you with such disrespect. And I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them do, right? And after they search you and find that you had nothing, they don't have nothing nice to say, but get out of here, keep it moving. And then they drive off. So now that patrolman that works that beat, that just formed somehow a relationship with some of these guys, just got dismantled.
Yeah.
They don't make a distinction between that cop that just did that and that patrolman. because you're all cops in the eyes of the community.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you patch that up? So my thing to you is, while the community tries to form an alliance to heal itself, the police department has to do the same with its own.
Yes.
You know, because if you guys don't police yourselves and you fall in line like Republicans, you know, and say, I don't care what Trump did, you know, I don't care. They didn't really storm the you know, the building. They were just trying to exercise their rights, you know. So what? They killed the cop. So what? They stomped these people out. So what? They threatened to kill the vice president and lynch him. They were really nice guys just trying to exercise their rights, you know. Come on. If you're an officer that's sitting next or beside an officer that abuses his authority and you do nothing,
absolutely,
tell the community that I'm a good guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aren't that bad, because your role is to protect and serve the public.
Absolutely.
That's me. That's my neighbor. You know, I got relatives that were in law enforcement. Right now, I got 2 relatives in Rikers Island. My uncle was a retired cop, you know, and these are relatives that I want them to come home safe, just like my friends in law enforcement. I want that for them. But as a police officer, you signed up for a job, right? And that job is to protect and serve the community.
Yeah.
True, you got to get home and you got to watch each other's back. Yeah. But you can't let that officer tarnish that badge.
I'm gonna defer to Kev real quick, but Chuck, our other co-host, he's on location somewhere. We're gonna play with him, and he says, I think we need to indicate there's a distinction between undercover officers and plainclothes officers. Yeah, an undercover officer is a person that is out there purchasing drugs. A plainclothes officer is a person that's working in a precinct that Kevin and I did, and we did that to, you know, quote unquote, blend into the community.
To give us a couple of seconds of speed.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. You know, you and I would get out of the car dressed the way we are right now, but we'd have our shield. We're supposed to pull our shield out. We have some other things to identify us, and gave you just that couple extra seconds to jump out. You know, you catch somebody in the middle of an act. As opposed to
Kevin, I'm gonna be honest with you. You really wasn't fooling nobody.
No. Listen, Rich, they knew who I was. Like, there was no like.
Listen, if a guy like you was riding around in Harlem.
But I'll still tell you, Rich, I still snuck into buildings. I still locked, you know, like wait.
No. I'm not questioning
more work.
You know,
once I was spotted, it was over.
Yeah. But for the most part, the bad guys,
they were
looking for that car.
Yeah, there was like they knew we had that they called it brown car, right? We had a brown you hear the kids screaming, brown car. Like they knew our car when we turned the corner on, you know. So yeah,
I think you guys with that were more of a deterrent, you know.
A little bit of each. We got the sloppy ones.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
Shout out everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. We having a good conversation. We got some stuff we got coming up. There's some other topics I want to talk about. Let me just read some comments. Claudia said, have to drop. As always, good conversation. Thank you, Claudia. Sending prayers to you and your family. Claudia and I went to grammar school together, and she just lost her brother. So my condolences to her family. My man Chuck, he said, Bill, please don't participate in the propaganda, please, brother. The money that's being funded through SAMSHA is not only about the purchasing of crack pipes. It's for harm reduction services, which included connection to healthcare, connections to mental health services, housing, and more. There's so much to discuss and learn about these dollars. Sam, I appreciate that. I will bring you on next Wednesday to give us some more insight in that, because I know right now people are just putting it out there in the universe. I don't know about that. Nitty wanted to talk about that. All I know is right now, like you said, that is the surface of that conversation. So everybody is jumping all on Biden's neck, and they're talking about him putting out a certain 30 million in health, but he wants to do it for safe drug habits. I think, you know, Kevin and I have always talked about this. There needs to be a balance of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? When I say that, I'm just talking about reform, just reform, period. I told Assemblyman Al Taylor the other day, I said, listen, reform is good when you talk about a person that, God forbid, had an accident, or maybe he was a DWI, and that's a drunk driver. Excuse me, and he doesn't have bail because a lot of people live check to check. Do I think he's supposed to stay in jail 5 months? Absolutely not, until his trial comes up. But the thing is, when you out here committing hard crimes, robbing, hitting people, and pistol whipping and shooting at people, do I think you deserve bail to a certain degree? And you're a recidivist? Absolutely not. Maybe you need to keep your ass in there, because if you are comfortable enough to be out here shooting at people in the street recklessly with no regards of human care, then you don't deserve to be out here. We talk about reform, corrections. I got to get my corrections people on here. That is just a big thing that's happening in corrections right now. The correction is just so soft right now. They're doing whatever they want to do in the corrections department, and that needs to change. I'm going to ask this question to you guys, and then I'm going to probably move on to another topic. I'll give you got a minute. Move on to another topic. But we're not giving up hope. And I'll start with you, Richard, and I'll go to you, Kevin. Is it too late? Have we lost too much control? Is there a way to come back? Go ahead, Richard.
Hey, listen, there's a saying I always go by, and it's called every day. If you're blessed enough to be woke up, you're given a chance by being woke up and a choice, right? So as long as you get woke up in the morning, there's always a chance to change anything, right? And I believe in God, right? And I believe the power of the Lord. And it means you got to put that to work, though. So we talk about a lot of stuff, and they got that saying out there, don't talk about it, be about it, and all that.
Absolutely.
And that's true. But it's not just saying that. It's actually putting work in. So you got to reach out and start doing something right where you are. Everybody's always saying, well, they should do this. They should give us that. Everybody wants somebody to do something, but what are you doing? What are you doing right where you are? Now, when I was a kid, I remember all of the churches that I knew had basketball teams.
Yeah.
Or football team, or both, churches. And all of the protests back in the 60s and 70s and 50s were organized by the church. That was like the central place where people can come and talk about whatever the woes were and the ills were in the community. You can go to the church. There was also a time when the public school, you were able to go into a public school between the hours of 3 and 6 if you were a nonprofit organization for free.
Yes.
They used a public school for tenant association meetings and things of that nature, because there is no project that has a community center that's big enough to hold a meeting for every tenant.
Yeah.
The capacity of these centers are like 200, 300, 400, 500 tops. And I'm stretching it with the 5. So if every tenant came out to discuss and try to talk about fixing whatever the problems were in the neighborhood, you couldn't do it in that community center. It wasn't designed for that. So we would have to utilize the public school, and they took that away.
Mm.
Right?
Kev? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Rich. I didn't know if you was finished. I apologize.
Go ahead, Kev.
Okay.
No. So, yeah, we've definitely lost a lot of things, and we've talked about this a bunch of times over the course of the last year and change on our school systems, right? That we need to invest massively, and there's money out there besides city and state and federal money. I think you can hit up big. It's New York City. There are a lot of very wealthy people. There are Bloombergs and Jay-Z's and all people like that. Let them take ownership of a school and put their name on it. Would Bloomberg give $25 million to put his name on a school? That puts a set of assets into that building, that can be done, because you do need after school programs. You do need to bring in people like yourself, Richard, and others who have lived there and been there and done it. They need role models. Like, we can't change the family structure. We can't fix that in an immediate sense. That takes time. And that takes bringing up kids who are in our public school system. We become the community. And we use the school as the base point, to start that, to get them to understand there is a better way in life. There are better things to be done. There are important role models out there. There are things we should be doing. But funding it, like I said, we just have to think differently. I think you get the right people to get people like I just mentioned in the room. You can tap into those resources. They love seeing their name on things, right? Like, I won't use the other guy's name, but there's, plenty of people who got tons and tons of money who would love to see their name on the local elementary school and take pride in it. And not only would somebody like a Bloomberg, because he's got his name on it, he put his 2 cents in there too, because he wouldn't let his name go to being synonymous with a bad school. He wanted to be synonymous with a spectacular school. So I just think that, there's other things we got to start getting creative and trying to think differently about.
You have public school systems, not to cut you off though.
No, you're not.
You have public school systems that are public schools in different parts of the city that if you walk into them, they look like private schools.
Yep.
Because the neighborhood in which they're in has a different demographic. Like, these people are
wealthy, massive influence, massive money.
They have money, so they put it into the public school, right? And their public school looks different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Parks Department. You go to Central Park, that park has a conservatory, right? They flood money into that park, just like Dumbo over the bridge in Brooklyn. We tried to get some park police in Rucker Park on 155th Street, and they said, oh, they only have 4 parks police in New York City. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I went to Dumbo, and Dumbo had 12. Well, that's a conservatory. People put money into that park. Now, my thing is, if somebody wants to donate money to public park, right, it should be parks, not a park. So if somebody says, here's $1 million or $5 million, but I wanted to go to just this park, they've got to say, no, that money gets dispersed between all parks. So we all start to look good, right? Not just the one that's across the street from where you live at. So that's my opinion about that. And as far as public schools, and I think we talked about this the other day, Bill, about the Harlem Children's Zone, how they were having that issue with kids coming from their school on 125th Street, making it back to Lincoln Project, which is 10-block walk, right? And Harlem Children's Zone used to put staff members on every corner up until Lincoln Projects for 10 blocks to make sure their kids got home safe, right? They had jackets and radios so they can assist with getting them where they needed to be. Now, Madison Boys and Girls Club on 155th Street in Bradhurst, brand new facility, state-of-the-art facility. They got anything that you ever would want for your child to be involved in it. They got a music studio. They're teaching how to play the guitar, drums, horns, all of that. They got a podcast studio in there. They got a sound booth for you to cut your own record. They have a computer class. They teaching you how to what is that? The printer that prints objects, right? I'm not tech savvy, but it's one of those printers.
The 3D printer.
3D printer. And the guy that's there instructs kids on how to take a computer apart and build it back. They have a gym donated by Madison Square Garden, right? They have a dance studio. They have a movie theater inside of this building, right? They have the resources in there. We have facilities and locations where we can try to connect with them to do good work in the community. But a lot of kids aren't going into these buildings. Maybe for fear of gangs, because it's not cool to be a gang member. When I was in Mott Hall High School, I had kids that were A students, right? But joined the gang And I said, why would you do that? He said, yo, Mr. Williams, I got to get home. I got to get from here, from this school, and make it back to my house. And I got to cross this gang thing. And they used to have their book bags marked for who they were affiliated with.
That's real talk. That's real talk. Back in the days, listen, the gangs would definitely do that. I mean, but like you said, in regards to the Harlem Children's Zone, where they had a line of people out there all day, all the way to the project.
Bill, but
yeah, it did. Yeah.
So you got these gang disruptors. I mean, violence disruptors, right?
Right.
Now I don't know what they're doing out in Queens, because I met the brother Bain, K. Bain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been out there to see what they're talking about. We got violence disruptors here in Harlem, right? But I don't see the station set up like they did with the Harlem Children's Zone, where they're actually stationed to disrupt violence. If they're doing it, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard anybody talk about that. I see the trucks pull up and all of that after stuff happens, when the media is there, but I've never seen that happen, or have these stations where you can say, hey, come in here, let's talk, let's disrupt this before it happens. Let me give you some options. My career with working with Job Corps was one where I was doing recreation, but when I left that building, I was recruiting kids off the street to go into Job Corps and change their whole venue. They can go to a Job Corps in Arizona. They can go in Florida. They can leave the state and change. Because if you leave where you are, sometimes you can just take your show on the road, But I would talk to kids, because parents would say, oh, you got to do this for my kid. I said, let me talk to the kid. Let me see what he wants to do or what she wants to do. Not what you want them to do. Find out what that kid is interested in and let them see possibilities. Sometimes kids don't even know opportunities that are out there. Remember the guy that they did a movie about that with Tom Hanks, I think, where the captain was on a boat and they had these African pirates that took over the boat, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It was a ship with all white guys. There was only one black guy on that ship.
Yeah.
That brother lived right on 135th Street in Madison Avenue.
Wow.
And I met him, right? And I brought him to talk to the kids about that job he had as a longshoreman.
Yes.
How many black guys do you see doing that job? There's so many jobs and opportunities that our people don't even know about,
Yeah.
and not introduced to.
Yeah.
I mean, my thing when I was a kid, I had never left really the block unless I went down south to see my parents. And I had two uncles that were like 3 or 4 years older than me. And they had trouble, where they had gotten assigned a big brother. Remember the Big Brother program?
Absolutely.
They had a big brother named David, Jewish guy, lived in New Jersey. He was a pharmacist. And he used to come and pick up my two uncles, right? And at first they were really rebellious towards him because he was a white guy, So he was, I don't want to mess with David. He don't know nothing about brother. And I remember I had got some trouble at my house with my mom. My mom had put me on punishment. And the only way I can get out of that is go to my grandmother's house where my uncles were. So I went there. So when David was coming, my two uncles broke out. So David shows up. Nobody's there to take. So he looks at me and said, hey, you want to come? I looked at my grandmother. I said, can I go? She said, yeah, go ahead. So I went with David. I went to David's house and I started seeing another life outside of that. He was taking me hiking, and us when we all went sometimes, because I started to go just like they went. And we would go hiking, we would go fishing, we would go boating, we would go, and he would talk about things, He would share possibilities and would talk about how you can make this happen for yourself. Because a lot of our people have tunnel vision. The quality of your life is what you see and what you experience. These kids never leave the neighborhood. And if all they see is gang, if all they see is shooting, if all that's ever highlighted is the negative, what about that kid? Despite all of this, is a honor roll student. Despite all of that, is an honor roll student and playing sports. Despite all of that, that mother and father might be on drugs, and that kid is still excelling. Nobody talks about that person. I met 2 women, right? And I'm gonna pass this off because it's relevant to this. There's a friend of mine who owns a restaurant. It's called Patrick's Place. It's a jazz club, but he also has a takeout part. He sells West Indian cuisine. So I'm standing there talking to Pat, and I see this wheelchair, 2 wheelchairs. One is electric, and the other one is manual. And the one that's manual is holding on to the girl, because they're both girls, and she's holding on to the other one in front of her. She's pulling her. They pull up the Patricks, go inside in the wheelchairs, and there's all of these food stacked up in bags, and these bags. And I'm like, I say, yo, Pat. And they grabbing the bags, putting them on the wheelchair, hook them here. They had places to put them. And they pull out and they take off. I said, yo, they gonna eat all that food? He said, nah, man, they do Grubhub. That's their hustle. They come here, take the orders, and deliver this. And I said, man, and the one that had the electric, she didn't have hands, right? She had like nubs.
Right.
And she was able to push that button and steer. And the other one's wheelchair was like old and broke down. And I stopped to talk to them the next time I saw them, man. And the one that had the manual wheelchair, she was telling me how she does arts and crafts and stuff like that. And
Right.
they do this and they do that. And I'm like, wow, man, that's crazy. These people are just still doing it no matter what. And they living in the same world I'm living in. The gun violence and all, and they still doing it. So don't tell me we can't do this.
Yeah.
If they can do that and have the spirit they have and live in the same world I'm living in, faced with the gun violence, and still making it happen for themselves,
we can do it.
We can't do this.
Absolutely. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. And we got my special guest tonight that's joined the panel, Richard Williams in the building, my brother from Harlem, just my brother in spirit and activism and just holding it down, just a damn good-ass brother. How about that? With that being said, I just want to read some other comments. Eunice Collins says, take it from someone I know who helped with Central Park and not going to put money uptown. They did one on 110th Street, the Dana Foundation. Shout out to everybody that's chiming in. Alma Clark. I got to give a special shout out to my brother, Terrence Gatling. His father just passed away. For those that may know his father but didn't know his father, if you saw a gentleman on 125th Street in Army fatigues with a camera around his neck, Marvin Gatling, he just passed away. And he was a fixture on 125th Street. He was out there when I was on patrol. Kevin, he remember, if I showed you a picture, you would know exactly who he was.
Good,
and
brother.
He used to have his apparatus with the finger and the rubber band. Oh, my God. I used to always say, yo, Lord, don't ever let this man choke somebody, because I couldn't be able to talk about a Rockville hand grip. He was the real G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip.
With the Kung Fu grip.
With the Kung Fu grip. So shout out to my man, Terrence. My condolences to you and your family. Mr. Gatlin, Grandmaster Gatlin, martial arts brother, is very well respected and missed. To the movie we were talking about, it was Captain Phillips. Alma Clark said we need more grants and funds for mentorship programs. Absolutely. Kevin Prentice, our 2A family is in the house. Kim Shear said, unfortunately, that problem that there's no more resources. Education is cut off from extra money, resources to provide for the children of today. Children are not interested. Parents are not interested. Parents hanging with their children. Absolutely. Let me just say this, and then I'm going to switch to topics. I think we need the youth to get back involved and try to galvanize their mentoring program for them. You know, if whatever we can do, whoever I can talk to, we got to find a way to get this back to the way it used to be. With that being said, I want to shift the topic, Rich, to give you some insight on what Kevin and I do and everything. Let's talk about Amir Locke. Amir Locke was a young individual in, Minneapolis. He was home at his cousin's house, and he was sleeping. His cousin was wanted for a search warrant in I think a crime, a homicide, or a shooting, and he was staying at his cousin's house. He was a licensed gun owner. He didn't have any priors, and they did a no-knock search warrant, and they had a key. They entered the house. We're going to show the video, and he was in bed, and he had his gun. When they kicked the couch and he turned, he didn't point the gun at him, but he had the gun in his hand, and the officer shot. Minneapolis is off the charts right now with their protesting, but they're having nothing violent. But now they're talking about no-knock search warrants. I'm going to say this before we show this clip. Kevin, I'm gonna give you a break tonight. I'm gonna show some clips. I got Malika right here with you. Exactly.
All right. Once you said Malika was there, I understood how it was being done.
Yeah. You know how I was going. You know I wasn't doing this shit.
All right, I'm gonna take a 2-second break. I gotta go kiss my kids goodnight.
Okay, go ahead. And with that being said, in being part of law enforcement, I get the whole concept. I'm straight African American all day. There's no question if ands or buts about that. But understanding law enforcement, no-knock search warrants are necessary when you're chasing a violent criminal. With that being said, they want to dismantle no-knock search warrants. I think this has become a problem in society today where we go extreme. Now, law enforcement in Minneapolis, you can be a licensed gun owner, like in other places, which is no problem. The problem arises when a search warrant is done on your location, and you may not be the person that they're looking for. But if you don't hear law enforcement, or maybe if law enforcement doesn't acknowledge themselves, you reach for your firearm. This conversation is this situation is totally different than Breonna Taylor to me, because Breonna Taylor, there's no body cam footage of them announcing themselves. And her boyfriend or fiance at the time thought he didn't know who they were, and he had prior situation with her ex. So to me, he could have been defending himself. I don't know that situation, but I think this situation is totally different than Amir Locke. I want to show the video of what we have on Amir Locke, and then I want to get your take on it, or I'll take the lead on it, and then I'll go to Kevin, and then I'll come to you, Rich. You ready, sweetie? Let's go. So we're going to show this video, everybody.
Town apartment. Jeff Wagner is here now to walk us through the video and what we've learned tonight about this investigation. Jeff.
Amelia, earlier today, Locke's family first viewed the video, which is what city leaders wanted before they released it to the public. Now, the elements of the video unfold quickly, as you just saw. The video clip itself was 15 seconds in total, but an officer's gun goes off 9 seconds after police enter the apartment. Officers use a key to open the door and immediately start shouting search warrant and other commands as they enter. MPD gave us this slowed down version of the footage. Their guns are drawn, flashlights on. They then kick the couch that Locke is sleeping on, and as he awakens and gets up, he is holding a gun. Officer Mark Hanneman shoots him. Police also released this still frame from the video showing the gun in Locke's hand. Yesterday, police said the gun was pointed at officers. At a press conference with Mayor Jacob Frey tonight, community leaders asked Interim Police Chief Amelia Huffman if she could specifically point out when the gun was pointed at the officer.
So if you look at that still image, even though you don't see all of the officers, the involved officer was just outside the frame in the direction that that barrel is emerging from the blanket.
But it looked to me as if that gun in Mr. Locke's hand was pointed toward the floor.
And certainly when the county attorney's office reviews that case, they will be carefully examining all of those factors. And I'm absolutely positive they will take a look at that.
It was not long after that answer that civil rights attorney Nakima Levy-Armstrong passionately interrupted the press conference. She's part of a new city commission to improve public safety and said Frey and Huffman's response to the shooting is not what voters want.
What they were expecting is a new beginning. That's why they gave you more power and authority. So that is what we want to see as the residents of Minneapolis. We don't want to see cover-ups. We don't want to see whitewashing. People are asking very simple questions that have still not been answered. Amelia, you're saying you want to be the chief? Then act like it.
We learned some other new details tonight. St. Paul police had a warrant to search 3 apartments in the building related to a homicide investigation. Chief Huffman did confirm that Locke was not named in the search warrant and added that St. Paul police recovered evidence from the building that could be related to that initial homicide investigation.
Jeff, a lot going on there. All right, thank you. There is still a lot that we don't know about this police shooting. We talked to experts to get answers about warrants, gun rights, and gaining access to apartments. You can find that story on WCCO.com. The attorneys for Locke's family are speaking tomorrow, and we'll keep you updated on WCCO and CBS News Minnesota.
Okay. So, everybody,
this is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.
So let me just give you my take on this, and then I'm going to defer to Kevin, and then I'm going to come to Richard. First and foremost, condolences to the families of Amir Locke. I said earlier that I really feel that no-knock search warrants are vital in police work. This is a sad situation because Amir Locke didn't have any priors. He was a licensed gun owner. And anybody that has the right to own a gun can sleep with a gun in his possession, on the floor next to him, wherever they deem necessary. It doesn't matter what his cousin did. He was staying at his cousin's house. Now, from a police standpoint, I don't know. I feel sorry, and I will say this. I feel sorry for that officer because he took a life. And Kevin and I, we talked about this. I don't think any officer, I'm not going to say any officer. There are officers that are kind of gun-ho, but I don't know this officer. But from what I've seen, the search warrant was done properly. Now listen to me, everybody, before you jump on any bandwagon or get mad at me. The search warrant was done properly. Could the officer jumped on the bed and kicked the gun out of his hand? Could have. He didn't have to. By procedure standpoint, from my eye, I think he did everything right. This is a tough one. It really is. Because a life is lost and procedures were done properly. We can't say they didn't announce search warrant. They did that. They couldn't say that they saw a person on the couch, they kicked the couch. When the person came up under the sheets, they saw a gun. No one here can say when I can shoot and can't shoot when there's a gun in somebody's hand. I think that's where the problem is really coming from. He didn't point the gun. Let's be factual here. He didn't point the gun at any officer. Could an officer ran and kicked it out of his hand? Yeah. Did an officer have to do that? No. This is not Breonna Taylor. I'm going to say this loud and clear, everybody. This is not Breonna Taylor's situation. Breonna Taylor situation, we don't have video footage. Kevin and I go back and forth with this on the Breonna Taylor situation. There's no video footage, body cam footage to show that they said search warrant. So my point is, I can't take their word. You can't tell me you said something and you can't prove it, right? Because now it's your word against what somebody else said. The man in his house, Breonna's fiance, said he didn't know they never announced search warrant. So he just knew somebody broke in the house until it came in a shooting match. This is not Breonna Taylor's situation. It's so disheartening that this young man lost his life, and he did everything right. He was a gun owner. He had the right to have a gun in his bed next to him, right next to his pillow. Kevin, I don't know if you know. I've known officers that talk about they sleep next to their gun or their gun under their pillows and stuff like that. I get it. I don't have the call on this. Now, this is going to go further than right or wrong, because now, of course, they're asking for this officer's job. Kevin, I'll defer to you. What's your thoughts on this, man?
I mean, I think you hit it right. Like, look, that's a split-second decision, and they're also like, you don't even get a good look at who that is. I'm doing a little research on the Mackay is the kids who.
His cousin is a problem. His cousin's
a thug.
His cousin's a thug.
Right, you see his Facebook, like this kid is armed to the teeth, right?
No,
like,
yeah, his cousin. Yeah, they were after him because he was shooting people and shit.
So that's also in the mindset of these cops, right? Like, we're looking for a thug. Gun pops up. You know, is it aiming directly or going towards? I'd like to go back to that video because there is a cop off to the right, which would be to Locke's left, where that gun is coming up. But is it pointing there? But I don't have, and you said it, but you don't have to. I'm not waiting for the barrel to be pointed at my face.
Right.
That gun starts to come, it's on. Like, I'm not waiting for the first shot. I'm not waiting for the barrel to point to my face. Yeah. Can you tackle and jump on him? Sure. But you're still talking about a millisecond decision, right? Like, it's a millisecond.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. And my guess is that cop wishes he did.
Yeah.
You know, I know I would wish I did. My goal has always been, I don't want to take anybody's life. I'm anti-death penalty. I don't want to take a soul's life. Like, that's
you asked about it. We're going to show it again, just so for everybody to get an understanding exactly. Like you said, Norm, this is a hard one, Bill. Body cam has changed the game. Yeah. Colin said, did he have to shoot? No. Colin, nobody can make that call from right here.
We have breaking up.
Nitty said, do you have the right to protect yourself? They sneak in while you're waking up from sleeping. Okay, I asked anybody right there before we play this video, what do you want a cop to do?
Yeah, I go even the opposite, right? Let's say if Locke fired and the cop didn't, I wouldn't charge Locke.
Right.
This is a tragedy. Unfortunately, it's right. I don't think he was thought the cops were coming in, so we went to shoot him. I think you and I are probably both skeptical before seeing the video if the cops yelled search warrant, because we've seen that, heard that, where search warrant. That was loud. That was crystal clear.
Was Breonna Taylor's boyfriend charged with anything when he fired?
Initially, he was, and they dropped it.
They dropped it,
which again I think is the right call there.
No, absolutely.
And how often do you get some
after all of the heat? They dropped it.
Right, Rich, and that's what I'm saying. We're going to play it again one more time for everybody to see it, and then I'll bring you in.
I'm running the restroom because I've seen it a couple of times.
Ahead. All right, go ahead. All right, cool. All right, good.
Right back.
All right, go ahead, everybody. Kevin, I think you froze. You're in 2G mode. Oh, we got you back, Kevin. We're going to play this again, everybody. So go ahead.
Inside a downtown apartment. Jeff Wagner is here now to walk us through the video and what we've learned tonight about this investigation, Jeff.
Amelia, earlier today, Locke's family first viewed the video, which is what city leaders wanted before they released it to the public. Now, the elements of the video unfold quickly, as you just saw. The video clip itself was 15 seconds in total, but an officer's gun goes off 9 seconds after police enter the apartment. Officers use a key to open the door and immediately start shouting search warrant and other commands as they enter. MPD gave us this slowed down version of the footage. Their guns are drawn, flashlights on. They then kick the couch that Locke is sleeping on, and as he awakens and gets up, he is holding a gun. Officer Mark Hanneman shoots him. Police also released this still frame from the video showing the gun in Locke's hand. Yesterday,
go back just a little bit. You're going to see the one cop go off to the right. And right before this, you'll see his gun is actually sticking out. He's over there where that gun is being pointed. If the gun's pointed down, if the gun was pointed a little more up, it's at him. That's his direction.
Immediately start shouting search warrant and other commands as they enter. MPD gave us this slowed down version of the footage. Their guns are drawn, flashlights on. They then kick the couch sleeping on, and as he awakens and gets up, he is holding a gun.
Right there on the right of your screen is the officer's gun. You can see that
also
sticking
released
out a
this
little.
still frame from the video showing the gun in Locke's hand.
Hold on a second.
Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Yeah, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti, and we got my special guest, Richard Williams, in the building, everybody. We appreciate you all. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to it. If on watching it on YouTube, if you're watching it on Facebook, share it. Let your friends know what's going on. Real Talk Chronicles, baby. Real Talk Chronicles, it's a movement. Force of the moment, right? That's it. Force of the moment, man.
Shouting search warrant and other commands as they enter. MPD gave us this slowed down version of the footage. Their guns are drawn, flashlights on. They then kick the couch that Locke is sleeping on, and as he awakens and goes to the right, he is holding a gun.
Hold pause right there.
And shoots him. Police also released this still frame from.
Go ahead, Kevin.
You got to go back a little.
I see the officer to the right, what you're talking about.
You'll see in a right. Let's see if you hit play there. Let's see.
Play right there, sweetie.
I'm going to hit.
Is sleeping on, and as he awakens and gets
right there, he's going to move a little bit further, but you'll see his gun, the officer's gun over here to the right. That's where this gun comes out, that direction.
Right.
So I understand what the police chief is saying there. That gun is coming out to his direction. Is it pointed at his face? No, but at that point, it's pointed towards his feet. I'm not waiting for you to my face.
Guys, can I say something here?
Absolutely, Rich. Absolutely.
Now, you're in a state that allows you to carry a weapon, right? Like you mentioned, Bill. He has the right to sleep with that gun, whatever, right? You have a no-knock warrant, knowing you're in a state where there's a possibility that the person that's in there has a gun, right? The body cam footage shows them coming in the apartment and then flanking out to different angles, right?
Yes.
They see him on the couch with the covers over his head, right? The reaction isn't to not come and get him. It's to get a reaction out of him by kicking the couch. He has the blanket's over his head. If you really wanted him, you could have just grabbed him with the blanket on him, right?
No, I disagree with you.
Let me finish my story here.
Sure.
Right? They kicked the sofa, right? Now you guys made that distinction between undercover and plain clothes, right? Now you guys work plain clothes, right?
Yes.
I did both.
Okay, so now when you approach a car at night that you pulled over, you usually have your flashlights out, right?
Right. Go ahead.
Now at night, forget about in the car, wherever you are. If somebody walks up to you with a flashlight, what's your immediate reaction?
You're going to flinch.
Not flinch, like
cover your eyes.
Try to cover your eyes, right?
Yes.
They kick the couch. He's under the covers. He comes out of the covers with the gun he's sleeping with that in the hand that the light is flashing in, right? So when he pulls the cover up, the light's in his face. What can he see? He can hear, but he came out of a sleep that you had to kick him to get him up. Anybody that's ever woke up out of a sleep is not all there.
And Rich, listen,
right?
let me just say this.
Guarding his face with the gun that he's coming out of the covers that he's covered up in. So do we want to arrest this guy? Or do we want him to wake up, come out of the covers like boo, you know? You
okay,
got him already. He's wrapped up. I mean, how sweet is that? He's wrapped up in a cover.
Well, Rich, let me ask you a question. If you can't even think you can try to even imagine Monday morning quarterback in this situation, because I think I've been in this situation and Kevin's been in this situation. And I'm not going to speak for Kevin on this, but I can say I've been in this situation. What do you think you would have done in that situation?
Well,
because see, that's the elephant in the room right now.
You want me to answer it? I'm gonna tell you. First thing, I should have been trained to react to that type of situation. This is not we in a state where you're not allowed to carry a gun, right?
No, there's licensed gun owners in New York City.
But by and large, everybody is not allowed to have a gun. In this state, everybody and their mother got a gun, right? So if you're a police officer, knowing that, your training should reflect that you're going into an environment that 9 times out of 10 there's a weapon in that household, right? You got a no-knock warrant, means that you're going to use the element of surprise on someone that may have a gun. So what is the training to that scenario? I'm going in here. There's probably a gun in here. How do we approach this situation? Because I watched the footage of the officer that fired the shot. When he got ready to fire the shot, as he getting ready to fire, there was another hand from another officer going like this, like he was going to pull the guy's gun up. Slow the footage down and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm going to play it again. Hold on, Rich. I'm gonna play the whole video again. Was going towards his gun, like he was going to try to stop him. I'm gonna play it again for everybody, so I can go back, come off the big screen. Here we
Officers use the key to open the door and immediately start.
Hold it. Go ahead. What you gonna say?
Again, I need you guys to really relate to that part. You always touch on, Bill, and that's training.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, the training for a state where the carrying of a weapon is normal. Are we trained? I mean, when I say we,
I know what you're saying.
Department, are we trained for that scenario?
Well, let me just say this, Rich, and Kevin, you can say it, and then we'll roll the tape. We have been trained all our lives, and Rich, you know this, playing sports. You know, we can be trained to run a set play. Certain things going to cause something to not happen in hockey, football, baseball, anything. This is a life-threatening situation. So please, I'm not trying to minimize this, but I'm talking about training. We train countless times to do something over and over and over again. Doing a search warrant, there is no scenario that is going to be actual besides hitting the door. When you get in that house, you do not know what you're expecting. Going to encounter. You may go in there anticipating this person, because we have a attack plan before we go into this situation. Is it guns involved? Is this person a killer? Is he, are we going over just drugs, but he's not known to have guns. So you may not go in there knowing it. If this is a person that's on a warrant, but is on a warrant for another situation. So they're going in there with the mindset that this person has a gun. And that's something that Colin said. He said they also knew that they were going into a situation where a gun might be present. Unbeknown to them, they did not know that his cousin would be sleeping there. I don't know why his cousin was there. I don't know why Mr. Locke was there. He had the right to be there and hang out with his cousin. Did he? I mean, who knows if he even knew his cousin was out here shooting people? That's neither here nor there. But the bottom line is, Mr. Locke his mother had stated that he was an Uber driver or a Lyft driver, and he was afraid of carjacking, so he went and got all the proper procedures done to carry a gun to protect himself. Now he's a licensed gun owner. He goes to his cousin's house, hanging out, drinking, tired. I don't know what caused him to say, I want to sleep. He's sleeping on a couch. Can he sleep with a gun? Exactly. My man Norman said he slept with his gun. I see you, Tony. You said, sorry, Bill, got to disagree. Officers were in the kitchen to the right. All officers could have stopped at the kitchen, yelled warrant, wait for a response. Once you kick couch, you're the aggressor and ready to kill innocent or guilty. Come on, knock it off. That's not even the point. I get it, Tony. But listen, people, unless you've been in the game, it's hard to tell somebody how to be in the game. Let me tell you something. Split-second reaction. You're in a search warrant. You're going after a violent criminal. This is what people, get this in your mind. You're going after a violent criminal. Did they think that individual was his cousin on the couch? No. Did they think that this person that they were going in there could be anybody else? All they know is they see a sheet and they see a gun appear under the sheet. So I asked you, hold on, Rich, because I asked you, what would you do? Put yourself in that situation right there. Are you diving on the gun? Are you shooting? What are you doing? And then I once somebody can tell me what they think they would do, then I'm good with it. But otherwise than that, it's
Bill.
Go ahead, brother.
All right. Again, you talk about training, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not trained in this.
Yes.
So I'm going to refer this to you.
Yes.
I'm going to put you in that room.
Yes.
Right? You're the lead in that room.
Yes.
Right? What would you have done once you saw that guy in there under the covers? You don't see no gun. You see him under the cover. What would you have kicked that chair?
If I saw him under that thing, that's a good question.
You're training. You talk training.
Well, the
training all these years, you walking in that door, leading, and you got Kevin to your side or behind you. How do you go in that room? Because it's the objective to capture him, or if you see a weapon, kill him.
I'm going to answer that. I just want to clear the screen, so I'm just going to play the video and to clear the screen. I got the question, and I'm going to answer it soon as we clear the screen. Go ahead. We're going to
shouting search warrant and other commands as they enter. MPD gave us this slowed down version of the footage. Their guns are drawn, flashlights on. They then kick the couch that Locke is sleeping on, and as he awakens and gets up, he is holding a gun. Officer Mark Hanneman shoots him. Police also released this still frame from the video showing the gun in Locke's hand. Yesterday, police said the gun was pointed at officers. At a press conference with Mayor Jacob Fry tonight, community leaders asked Interim Police Chief Amelia Huffman if she could specifically point out when.
All right, thank you. My wife and I, we having I had to defer to her. I ain't getting in trouble tonight with y'all guys. So now, Rich, you said something, Joseph, so important, what I would have done, and I've done it. Went to a house with a search warrant. Gun might have been in the house. Person was under the covers. What we did, because we were that close, we didn't kick the bed, we pulled the sheet off, right? Thank God he, at that time, did not have a gun in his hand. But people were ready. I can't say what my fellow officers would have done, because if they would have shot and the person would have had a gun, would they have been wrong? No. This is where I'm trying to get people. I think people, let's understand would I would have jumped on him and tried to like wrestle him with the gun. Yo, I'm a different dude. It doesn't make me right to say I'm a different dude in that case. I might have tried that. I really may have tried that, Rich. You understand what I'm trying to say? But I don't know at any situation that close, speed, hand, gun to air, gun to target is totally different than foot to reaction. Now, he had a right to own this gun. I can't take that away from this man. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but I just listen to what you said, Bill. You said you had that similar scenario. You pulled the sheets off of him. Yes. Right? You didn't kick the bed. You didn't kick the sofa, wait for a reaction from him. You walked over to it, was close enough to pull the sheet back, which means you were close enough that if they started shooting him because he had a gun, simply had one, right? They could have shot you too.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Scenario, Richard, though,
getting that close to
the same thing.
Well, hold on. Getting that close to somebody that's covered up by a sheet, you know it's a body under there and he's moving. So you know that's somebody in there. You don't even know if it's the person you came for, right? Until he opened the sheets. They didn't even know that because looking at the footage, the light was shining in his face so much, you couldn't even see his face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know a person by their butt cheek.
Identify whether it was a man or woman.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
You're right.
So the light shining in his face, he for sure couldn't see who was looking at him, right? But again, the sheets over him, right? The element of surprise is in your favor because he's covered up by a sheet. There were so many angles you can get around that body before he came out of that sheet. But what do? You kicked him.
But Richard, so part of that is
right. You asking me, and I'm giving you my take on it.
No, we want that. We want that. We want that.
Kick the couch as opposed to, like you said in your training, you got close enough to what was ever under that sheet for you to unveil it to see if that's what you came for, right? So now you're close enough to react to a weapon. You can grab it if that's your choice, right? But you made that decision with your training not to kick the sofa, right? But to unveil it to say, okay, this is him or it's not him.
Rich, let me tell you something, brother. So I totally get what you're saying, and I'm not disputing it. But let me just say this: the three of us working together, all three of us might do something totally different.
It's like a recipe, though, Bill. If your training is there, the recipe is the same. No matter how
what training
outside his fist, that recipe.
Richard, you can't train.
It might be different.
You can't train for adrenaline.
It might be different fish. It might be different seasoning. But if you make the recipe the same, right, on how you approach a situation, given all scenarios involved, if we're all on the same page, right, with that training, we approach it a certain way.
So let me just say this, and I get what you're saying about training and recipe, because the bottom line is, boom, I'm a fighter. I've been fighting for so long. So most of my situation, any law enforcement in here that's worked with me, they know I've done shit. I've grabbed people with guns, and I've done shit I wasn't supposed to do, but I fought. You understand what I'm trying to say? I can't even divulge some of the shit I've done because I probably get in trouble. But what I'm trying to say is that I enjoy the hand-to-hand, right? I wasn't about the gun, right? The gun was totally different when I used it. If I pulled out the gun, damn sure you better hope that your hands were up in the air. Because I've been in situations, Rich, Kevin and you and I might have been working together in SNU. We pulled over a guy and the windows were tinted and it was cracked and he dropped his hand and I put the gun almost shot him. And I come to find out he was trying to stash the drugs. But I didn't want that on my conscience, Rich. I didn't want to shoot anybody. As much as people of color say, yo, I'll pop a cap in your ass, I don't want to pop a cap in anybody's ass. Because if I pop a cap in your ass, trust me, I'm not going to feel sorry for it. So, and then I'm not even talking about law enforcement working. I'm talking about John Q. Public right now. If I shoot you, trust me, I'm not going to feel sorry for it. And I hope this don't go nowhere. I'm going to feel sorry that I took somebody's life. But the bottom line is you put me in a no-win situation, a cat against the wall, as they say, or a rat in the corner. That situation, I can say I may have pulled the sheets off, right? But now, here we go, Rich. Now, what do we go with new training? So when we go to the search warrant and we see a person in the bed, do we stand fast and we wait till they come out under the sheet to see what they do? I don't know. Because right now, Cops all over the world, all they know is now, and I'm gonna take you someplace real deep. Cops all over the world, after doing this search warrant, all they heard right now is that two officers went to a domestic violence situation, and they got ambushed, and the guy came out the room, unbeknown to them, and just shot them. That is in a cop's mind. I'm telling you that for facts. So right now, whatever training you're saying, I get it. Like Kevin said, you can't train adrenaline. You can't train, like they say in sports, Rich, you can equate to this. When they're evaluating athletes, what do they say? He has a good motor. He doesn't have a good motor. He's a lackadaisical player. He doesn't have a motor. What I'm trying to say is that you don't know how. I'm gonna defer to you, Kevin, but I've got to answer a question like my man Nitty asked me. He said, Bill, if that was your son, how would you feeling if that happened? Nitty, I'd be effed up. I'd be so effed up. But seeing this video, I'd probably be wanting to whip my nephew's ass. And I'd probably be mad and say, why did my son go to this house? Because you try to raise your children so right to do the right thing. And this is a young man that did the right thing, right? He did the right thing. He was a legal gun owner. And he's hanging out with his cousin. He was at his cousin's house. But what come to find out, he's at his cousin's house, but he's hanging with his cousin's brother. So he's not hanging with the cousin that's the criminal. He's hanging out with his brother. And he's staying there and he spends the night. Who would have known this shit, man?
Hey, Bill.
Yes, go ahead, Rich.
Say this.
Sure, absolutely, brother. This is real talk.
And I respect all the scenarios you've given. And believe me, I understand that plight. And I'm not coming from law enforcement. I'm coming from working in, remember that group home I told you, hard to place kids? They all had cases.
Absolutely.
We had 12 kids in that house. We did house searches regularly. And what did we find? Shotguns, brass knuckles, and pistols. Mm-hmm. I myself have stood in between a gun and another guy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't have a bulletproof vest on. I didn't have a weapon, but I used my brain.
Yeah.
Nobody got hurt. Right? And I'm just speaking for me. I'm not
absolutely, brother. Preach.
Anything other than that, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk about this whole thing, and I gotta say this because I'm a man of color, right?
Yes, me too.
I have never seen this scenario happen to anyone except us.
I totally agree with you on that. I totally agree with you on that.
With all of the statistics out there and all of the talk about, you don't understand what that's like to be in that situation. I get that. But how come when it always happens, it don't happen to nobody but us?
And I totally agree with you.
Now, if I hear statistics about this happening and then there was a white guy that happened to, I would say, okay, I can rock with that, right? But when you got a history of situations that have occurred across this country, when these atrocities, and I got to call them that, when something like Amadou Diallo happens.
I was there.
When this guy gets shot, where the bullets are on the bottom of his feet.
Crazy.
Right? And he's brandishing a wallet. Where Abner Louima gets a stick shoved up his ass in the precinct.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
No, God, you can curse on podcast.
And then at the end of the day, before most recent events where cops get brought in for this stuff, you should get nothing, right? Unless another officer testifies. Abner Louima's case, another officer testified, which is what locked that other officer up.
Richard, I'm not disputing that. Hold on, brother. Let me just say this.
Hold
on, Rich. Hold on. I'm not disputing that at all. I'm not disputing that.
Nothing happened, and it was justified.
And then, Richard, this is what let me just interject for a second, brother. This is why I'm doing what I do right now, to bring light to this, because I understand the difference between a black man and a police officer, and I understand the difference between a black man and being a black police officer too. So I get everything you're saying. I'm not trying. This is the one case scenario where when we start talking about procedure and protocol, right? I can't find the fault. Now, can we sit here and say everything what he could have did and should have did, what we wanted him to do? I hear that. But when I'm sitting here and I'm dissecting this, because this is what we're doing, we're Monday morning quarterback this situation, Rich. Let me just rock with you. I'm looking at what could he have done? Hold that thought. I want you to think about that because I want to read the comments because I got people coming at me too, and I want this smoke because this is smoke that's going to help us all grow. This is all going to grow. Let me just read back. So Kim said, right, Richard. Amir didn't wake up immediately when the couch was kicked. He sure didn't. Colin said they also knew they were going into. Okay. Norman said this was a training technique to shine your light in the suspect face to disorient them. Yeah, for everybody that doesn't know, when police officers shine a light in your face, they do that to disorient you, disorient you because they want to block your vision so you can't see them. Let me tell you something. It is the most disgusting thing that I've experienced as a black man and a former police officer, and when I was a police officer, to get the light shined in my face. I think it's the most disgusting tactic. I get it, but it burns my ass because I feel like it's so demeaning to me to put the flashlight in my face. I hate it. I really do hate it. Alma said, unbelievable via officers using a key armed up, impulsively entering a black man's domain with guns. The shock alone would make any man react and respond surprisingly. Tony Love, true. What's up, Tony? Long time no see. True. I have never been in this moment. Tough call for me. Vera says he was forced to sleep with the gun because there was no place to secure it. He was not in his house. Vera, I get that. I'm not disputing that. See, this is where I want everybody to understand. I'm not disputing anything about him having his gun. I'm glad that a black man was able to get a gun legally. You know what I'm trying to say? I would love for a lot of people here. I don't know if Rich is able to get a gun license. A lot of people that I know, I want to be able to have a gun license.
Yeah, walk me through that process.
I will. I got you, brother. I'm going to walk you through that process.
I'm not going to sleep with a blanket over my head either.
Well, no, I don't want you to, brother. My man Nate said, this guy was dead either way. If he reached out of fear and if it's self-defense and shot the cop or just wake up disoriented with a gun in his hand, he was dead. I can't dispute that, Nate. I can't dispute that dispute. What I want everybody to understand, I'm not trying to tell you, anybody here, that I co-sign the shooting. When I say the word co-signing, I don't co-sign a person of color being dead. What I'm trying to tell you, I didn't see anything wrong in the procedure of how they did it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not trying to tell you I justify the shooting per se.
Bill,
listen, I'm just telling you from the procedural standpoint, the officers. Go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
I agree with what you're saying to a degree, right?
Uh-huh.
But it's kind of like when you say, like in the South, separate but equal, right?
I get that.
It's not the same, right?
I know.
Again, you don't hear no stories of this happening to anybody but people of color, right? In that same state, there's a documentary on I think it's on Netflix right now about something happened before the kid that got shot in the playground for playing with a water gun. The police rolled up on him and shot him. Before that, there was an incident where there was a man and a woman in a car purchasing some crack, right? This guy's car, everybody in the town knew his car backfired, right? There was another cop in that town who was known to harass the drug users and drug dealers. So this particular cop, black cop, plainclothes, watches what happens. He makes a sale, gets back in his car with the woman, drives off. The cop tails him. And according to the people in the community, this cop was known to take their drugs and take their money and then let them go, right? So this guy was a crackhead, him and the woman. They get in the car, purchase something, drive off. This cop pulls them over. When they pull over, they notice that it's that cop that always takes their drugs. So as soon as he walked up to him, they sped off. And when they sped off, the car does what? Backfires. Pop, pop.
Mm-hmm.
The cop starts to chase him, but then, and in court, he testified to this. He said he just let him go, right? But they didn't know he stopped. So they're still driving fast. They go past the precinct. As they passed the precinct, there was a cop getting out of his car, and that car backfired again. Bop! The cop thinks he's getting a shot at him. He gets on the radio, calls it in, starts to pursue that car. And when the other cops hear that somebody shot at a cop, what happened? All the cops come. They had a 14 car chase on this one car. When they finally, let me get to this, before they finally pulled him over, they got on the radio to look at the video because they saw the video and they saw from the precinct that the car backfired. Mm-hmm. So they're saying on the radio.
Yeah, I remember that. That officer was
shot. It was a backfire.
Yeah, that officer was fucked up.
Still chased the car down. They shot almost 300 shots into that vehicle.
Yep, I remember that.
And the last shots that were fired, cop gets out of his car. After everybody stopped, he jumps on the hood of the car, empties 2 clips into the windshield. Pop, 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 pop. Empties the clip, pop, 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 pop. When they interviewed all the cops, one cop was talking about how he was afraid that the bullets were going to hit him the way this guy was firing.
And it was the cop shooting. Nobody shot, but just the cops shooting at each other.
Exactly. Now,
I know that.
All of the cops that were there that got interviewed said that they all feared for their life.
Exactly.
It was only one cop that testified how this cop jumped on the hood. And when they asked him about it, he said, no, I don't remember that. They did all of the ballistics and found his footprints on top of the car. They found his shell casings.
I agree.
All of that. But when it went to court, they let him go.
Yeah. Let me interject for a second, Rich.
Before you do that,
go ahead, please.
The brother, the man that shot those people with the AK-47 and other atrocities like that, when the police arrived knowing that this person just did that.
Yes.
And they still holding the gun. Did they get shot?
No.
Did they approach him in a manner where they feared for their life? Knowing this man just did what he did, they approached him like, are you okay?
Yeah. And
now, when black people see that, and then you try to justify and explain something like that,
well,
how
Rich,
do you do that?
Rich, let me just say this, and then I'll let Kev come chime in. I'm reading the comments. Listen, I see you, Sensei Mo. I see you, everybody. I see what you're talking about. You're talking about. I see you. Lucky if he was a white, they wouldn't have kept him. They would have kept him alive. I'm not disputing that. Kevin and I go after this all the time. Colin, I see what you're saying. You said poor training. I would think that going into such a situation, you would have all the tactical gear, armored shield. You're doing no knock for an element of surprise. That's a good point. They did have that. If you looked at the video, Nitty, Bill, if that was okay, we talked about that. If that was my son, Kim Shear said, right, Richard, same sugar honey iced tea, but different toilet. Yes, it is. Mahalia said, Brother Rich, you are on point. Speak facts. Stefania said, I think a lot of us are viewing the scenario from an emotional perspective instead of a logical perspective. That's where I'm going. Kenny Harris, my man, said, yeah, that's 137 shots, Bill. Absolutely. Mahalia said, making me lay on my stomach and spread eagle while they do a so-called investigation is demeaning. As a matter of fact, they made several little girls lay face down on a hot parking lot floor. Hey, Kathleen, shout out to my martial arts sister. Now, this is what I'm going to say, and then I'm going to let you and Kev, let Kev come in and say what he says. Everything everybody's saying is right, but we're talking from emotions not pertaining to this situation. I get it. Everything you're saying, everybody's saying, Rich, what you're saying, I can't even dispute because I agree. That's why I say what I say. That's why Kevin and Chuck and I, we have these conversations. And Kevin will tell you, we go at each other all the time about what I feel is done unconstitutional, unfair to people of color. Kevin always, that's how he gets the nickname Stats, because he'll always say all about people being shot, white people in comparison to people of color, and we'll argue about this all night long. I get what everybody is saying. I'm not telling you I'm co-signing the shooting. I'm just telling you I see why the gentleman got shot. I'm not saying I agree that he should have been shot. I'm just telling you from being on that side, I see why the officer shot.
Okay, but from that side, tell me how does the disparity come like that, where it's only us?
Because I'm gonna answer it for you. There isn't any equality. There are white officers that don't see us as equal. Now that's the elephant in the room. Because how does Dylan Roof get taken to Burger King and get bought burgers after he shot up a bunch of people in the church? That's the elephant. There's no.
All right, well, let me ask
when I pull you over, Rich,
just ask Kevin that question.
Okay, go ahead. Ask Kevin that question. Go ahead, Kevin.
How did that? Because you're the stats man, right?
Yep.
So statistically, right? How do you justify those statistics that happens to a person mistakenly getting shot, and it's always a person of color?
Well, it's not. Actually, year to year, it's
Point
more.
some cases out.
I'll give you the exact stats because that's
no point some cases out.
Richard, give me a sec.
Mm-hmm.
Year to year, we shoot more unarmed white men than black men. Year to year, every single year. You can go back for decades. Every year.
Give me one.
Give me one. Give me a second to Google it. The Washington Post keeps the stats. I'll give you the article.
I don't have to Google. I can
I brought them.
Top of my head. Can you?
I know you can.
One.
I know you can. See, but here's
off the top of your head,
Richard,
that people can relate to. Just
you're,
one.
You're still not listening, right? Like, it's there. Statistically, it's there. You don't want names. Does the name matter if the stats are there? More white men every single year shot than black men unarmed by cops every year in this country.
But you're saying a stat, right?
Yeah.
But
stats are about people.
But you're saying there's so many more.
Because Richard,
more, right?
Because
it's more, right?
Because Richard, here's the why. It's what media covers, right? The media is the disparaging thing in this, with a lot of it. Media is disparaging in two things that they like. They like white officer, black suspect, and they like pretty blonde missing kid, or a murdered girl, right? We do not talk about brown and black girls who go missing, who get killed. Don't. And we don't talk about, and we don't in the media, they don't talk about white people who get shot by cops.
Okay, is there any body cam for white people to get
shot? Yeah. I've pulled some on the show. It'll take me a second if you want me to. It'll take me a minute, but I'll show you. I'll show you one where the guy's butt naked runs towards the cops and they blow him away. Butt naked. Clearly doesn't have a weapon because he's naked, head to toe. And the cop shoots him. I showed this on here with Bill. It's there. They just don't get the press.
Why?
Tell me why brown girls don't get the press when they go missing.
But I'm asking you. Tell me why.
The media is, to me, the media is racist.
Yeah, but why? What's the objective?
The objective is to get more people watching, more clicks, more views, and they believe one gets us more than the other, so they show more.
Yeah, but who in the long run? Who does that affect?
All of us.
But who does it affect bottom line? Because when they mention welfare and public assistance, right? The media shows while they're talking about it, people of color, right? When the statistics say that 85% of the people that are on public assistance are Caucasian.
Yeah.
But when you talk about it, they show people of color, which gives the message to poor white folks that black people and Hispanics are sucking up all the benefits in this country. So that causes a divide between poor whites and poor blacks who have more in common than rich people.
Agreed. Richard, I'm with you. But that's what I'm saying. But just as you've physically noticed that
aren't in the seat to change that.
I'm not in the seat to change it either.
No, not you specifically. But the people that create that scenario and that narrative are the same people that can change it, but they keep
Agreed.
it because that puts a foot on a certain demographic of people. Throughout history, that's what it's been. And going back to the flashlight, that was a practice that was used in the South when you got pulled over by the Ku Klux Klan to put that light in your face.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Yo, Rich, I hate it. I hate it.
It's just traveled wherever we go. I don't know if you're familiar with the Green Book. That was a book that you used to have to get to simply travel north to south to know what towns you couldn't be in when sundown came.
Yeah.
Or what hotels you can stay in, or what restaurants you can go to. Right?
Rich, let me just interject for 1 second. Malika and I are going to queue up the next video that we're going to show.
Okay.
I'm going to let you two just finish this out. 1 minute. Finish this topic out. Go ahead, Rich. Finish yourself, and Kevin, you can rebuttal. But we're going to queue up this next video, so I'm just going to mute myself so we can queue up this video. Go ahead, fellas.
Oh, you want to cue the video? Or you want to see?
You want us to finish? It's on you, Rich.
No, I was just talking about, a lot of stuff that leads to this this feeling and emotion, you could say. And you can't help but be emotional when you've experienced that way of life and then speed it up to modern day life. It's not the same, but it is the same. It's just in a different way, So the distrust and the disbelief that you can get treated by law enforcement in a certain way, being equal to your counterparts, it just simply isn't there, I mean, I've experienced that personally myself, how I would get pulled over and get treated like a perpetrator.
Absolutely.
And the first words that come out my mouth determine how I'm going to get treated from that point on. And there was a time where it didn't make a difference what you said. The smarter you were, the more you got that foot put up your butt.
Yeah, because they thought you were being a smart.
If you talk more
smart ass,
you'll get treated different now. But back then, if you talk more intelligently, that made it worse. Yeah. Oh, you an uppity Negro.
Absolutely.
Oh, you think you're smarter than me, And then to a degree today, it applies too. Because if somebody speaks more intelligently than that person that's addressing them, they feel, oh, you think you better than me. And everybody's human. Everybody comes with their own baggage. You don't know what's going on with that officer in his personal life when he comes to work, and something small can just trigger him. You guys suffer from the same thing everybody else suffers from. You got to pay child support, you got back in your bills, bad relationship, some substance abuse in some cases, alcoholism, mental illness, all of these things, regular people suffer with. Yeah. You go to England, the training lasts 3 years, not months, years. You have to go through training for 3 years like you're going to college, and they don't even carry guns.
I know. It's crazy. Rich, let me just break this point. Kev, I want to show this clip. So if I got to cue it up, you got to take a bathroom break, or you good? I'm going to run this real quick. You good? All right, Richard. This is another thing. Let's everybody out here. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm the host, Bill Forster. Richard, you always welcome back, bro. I'm just putting it out to you, family. You always welcome back.
I'm gonna keep it 100, man. And I'm gonna tell you like this. I don't have nothing but love for law enforcement. I respect what you do, right? But you are entrusted with a job that can take a person's freedom, that can end a person's life. Absolutely. You guys, you have to rise to a level that's
we're above the law. We got
to understand.
Yeah,
most people can't understand. If somebody gives you if somebody says, "Hey, Bill, watch my kid," if something happens to that kid, no matter what you say, it happened, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, Rich, we're from an era where we were told if you got lost, find a police officer, he'll help you get home. Now we're in an era where right now it's like, yo, stay away from the cops. He'll kill you. right? I mean, let's keep it real.
And not only that,
hold on, Rich. I want
to
to
be afraid of the cop, but the fear could be just being associated with being friends with a cop.
Listen,
you know what I'm saying?
How you think? And this is a whole nother topic. How you think I had to deal with being from Harlem, still in Harlem, and then when I became blue, like that was the craziest shit. Was I black enough to be blue, and was I blue, and did I have to denounce my blackness? With that being said, I'm going to switch topics. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I appreciate you all listening. We have gone past the time, but right now this is a great show and a great topic. So I'm going to extend this olive branch. The next topic I'm going to pull up right now is what's his name? Vincent Simmons. I don't know if anybody knows about this case. Watch this video right now, and we're going to talk about this. This is Vincent Simmons' situation. 14-1, yes.
Want the thrill of a parlay bet?
Sorry for the commercial, everybody.
Single game.
Appreciate everybody watching.
Is this a new sponsor?
Couldn't be
easier.
It's
not a sponsor, but it's going to be a sponsor right now. It's almost
one
over.
Game,
everybody,
bigger payouts.
Subscribe.
Now you're betting with the king of sports books.
Damn this commercial. They ain't paying no sponsorship.
You got Thanksgiving going in the crib, Bill?
Yeah. Exactly. All right, now everybody, here we go.
A man who has spent decades in prison for a crime he says he did not commit. His name is Vincent Simmons. He's serving a 100-year prison sentence in Louisiana after being convicted of attempted aggravated rape of two 14-year-old twin sisters back in 1977. But there have always been unanswered questions in this case, and a judge is about to rule on whether Simmons will get a new trial. Lead national correspondent David Begnaud spent months reporting on this story, and he's got some new developments that could change this case. David joins us now. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning, Gail. What you are about to hear, the jury never heard. Starting with the initial report that the twins gave to police about who they say sexually assaulted them. A questionable photo. The forensic exam conducted by a doctor on the twins. And then we have an explosive revelation that no one has heard until we started investigating this story. In the rural center of Louisiana, there has been a haunting question hanging over Marksville for decades. Did Vincent Simmons get a fair trial in 1977 when he was convicted of a heinous crime against 14-year-old twin sisters?
He raped two of us, and he put us in a trunk to die. He had me write our names down, and he told us he was going to kill us. And we believed every word of it. And we were not going to tell anyone. Our plan was we were going to die with this.
But 2 weeks later, word got to the sheriff. And that is when Karen and Sharon Sanders reluctantly reported some details, claiming they were forcibly taken by a black man to a country road and sexually assaulted for 3 hours in a car that belonged to their 18-year-old cousin, Keith Laborde, while he was locked in the trunk.
We called him Simmons all night. There's so many things about that night. He gave us his name.
When you were questioned by the sheriff,
yes,
you never gave the name Simmons.
No, we did not.
You never described what he looked like.
No, we did not.
You said all
blacks look alike.
And you said all N-words.
That's right. Sure did.
So how are we to square the fact that that night you couldn't explain anything? You didn't have his name. You didn't know what he looked like. But now you're telling me today, and you testified at trial, that his name was Simmons.
That's right.
How does that happen?
Okay, this is how it happens. We had all three swore to each other that we would not tell a soul.
May I ask you, with all due respect?
Yes.
Why did you make that pact to not say anything? Why wouldn't you immediately report it?
Because we were scared. He told us that he had friends and that he would come back to kill us if we told anybody.
67 days after he was arrested, Simmons, who was known to police as a petty thief, was sentenced to 100 years in prison, convicted at 25 years old of attempted aggravated rape by a jury of 11 white men and 1 black woman.
The first thing I want to say to you is that I know my client is innocent.
Justin Bonus is the latest attorney to take up Simmons' case.
he filed a motion to have Simmons released.
This was a legal lynching.
He is waiting for a Louisiana judge to rule next week on whether or not Simmons is entitled to a new trial.
There's no physical evidence that connects him to that crime. There's no blood. There's no semen. There's no hairs. There's nothing. Sharon talks about bleeding all over the car. Karen talks about a violent rape. Where's the evidence in the car? Where's the blood in the car? There's nothing that supports a crime happened, and there's definitely not anything that supports that a black man committed the crime.
This is important for the viewers to know. A month or so ago, the DA offered to release him, but he wanted him to register as a sex offender. And what did Vincent say to you?
No.
Why?
He didn't do this.
So he turned down freedom.
Correct.
Because a sex offender registrant meant that much to him.
Correct.
That he didn't want to do it.
Correct. Because he's not a sex offender.
This is the man who offered to release him, the current district attorney, Charlie Riddle. Why did you offer to release Mr.
Because
Simmons?
today, 40 years would probably be the sentence that we would request in a case like this.
This box, this.
Instead, Riddle is now left to defend a case that, based on new information, raises more questions about whether Simmons is guilty. Years after going to prison, Simmons obtained the district attorney's evidence file about the case. In it, he claims he found a revealing medical report from the local coroner, a trained doctor who examined the twins. That report was never introduced at trial. One of the attorneys, who was Vincent's defense attorney at the time of trial, says they never knew that the coroner said you were a virgin, that the coroner said there was no evidence of sexual assault found on either one of you.
Okay, well,
They didn't know that.
Well, it's 2 weeks later, and it's still not important. The fact is, he still attempted, and he wasn't successful, so he still raped me, and he did rape her.
So how do you react, though, when the report essentially says
I
there
don't
was
care,
no
because
evidence of sexual assault?
Because it doesn't matter. There was.
Because we know.
By now, I think if we were lying, we would have given up. But I'm not giving up.
In 1994, Simmons took the medical examination report to a parole board.
We didn't have none of this evidence. None of this evidence was presented before the jury because the DA had it in his file. It testified before the jury that they were brutally raped. They repeatedly asked them, would they be able to identify this person again if they saw him? They say no, because all blacks look alike.
And he presented another piece of evidence that he found in the file. He says this is a lineup photo showing him in handcuffs.
This is a joke. It's a joke. It doesn't get any more suggestive than this.
Did the two of you and Keith all pick Vincent Simmons out of the lineup?
Yes, we all three did.
The lineup shows him in handcuffs.
Yeah, it sure does. And that's been a big problem because when we picked him, he was not in handcuffs.
I'm telling you that the deputies that were there and present and the victims say that he was never in handcuffs when they identified him.
So is it possible that you made a mistake when you picked him in the lineup?
David, I have lived 44 years with his face in my brain. And there's no way that I would have spent 44 years if I had the slightest doubt in my mind that I did not have the right man in prison.
We wanted to speak with the prosecutor who got Simmons convicted about allegations that he withheld evidence that may have exonerated Simmons. David Begnaud here for Eddie Knoll. Though he repeatedly declined to speak with us, former District Attorney Eddie Knoll says in a sworn affidavit that the defense had access to the entire file. He says he is convinced the evidence supported Simmons' conviction. And about that photo, he says he was told it was taken after the lineup.
So it was information that is explosively helpful for a lawyer to use.
Before she became a Louisiana criminal court judge, Lori White represented Simmons and tried to get him a new trial.
It was pretty clear to me that the defense did not have information to impeach the witnesses. They did not have the police report. They did not have that photograph of a physical lineup. They did not have what was a rape kit at that time for the coroner to have physically looked at the two alleged victims. Had a jury heard, I don't think they would have convicted, or they would not have convicted perhaps of that charge.
He did it. He just didn't. I have it. Of course he did.
It is among 16 unsuccessful attempts to get his conviction tossed out.
The board has voted this time to deny your request for parole. And
Now it is attorney Justin Bonus's turn. You already have a judge who said to you on the record that Mr. Simmons was convicted without the total picture. Do you believe you're on the verge of getting a new trial?
I pray that I am. I don't know what to believe. Until it happens, I don't know what to believe.
Attorney Justin Bonus has told the judge overseeing the case about what he calls explosive new evidence from a sworn affidavit made by Keith Laborde's cousin, Dana Brouillette. Dana Brouillette says long after the trial, Keith admitted to me that Vincent Simmons did not rape Sharon and Karen and did not put them in the trunk of the car. Dana Brouillette goes on to say, he told me that he had had consensual sex with one of the girls and locked the other in the trunk while he was on Little California.
Oh my God, she is a sick woman. She has no clue. Say that was the truth. And they believe that really happened. Why didn't they go report it?
Hello, Mr. Laborde. My name is David Begnaud with CBS News. Keith Laborde was not home when we stopped by. By phone, he refused our request for an interview. He insisted that Simmons is guilty, and he says he did not have sex with Karen. The sheriff asked you if you had been sexually involved with Keith, and you told him no. It's an uncomfortable question, so I'm pausing because I don't even like asking it. But
Go for it.
I know you're already there. I know.
It's fine.
Did you have consensual sex with Keith Laborde?
We were kids.
Yes, ma'am.
We experimented. So yes, if that's consensual, if that's whatever word you want to put to it.
This happened before you say Vincent Simmons raped you.
Yes.
How old were you when it happened?
I don't know, 9, 10, maybe.
And is this the first time you're saying this publicly?
Yes, it is.
That's as newly discovered evidence as it gets, man. And it's out of the horse's mouth. She's no longer a victim. My client's a victim. It's evidence that Vincent, at trial, his defense attorneys would have ran to that so fast, they would have blamed Keith. Now that we know that this guy was preying on her, and she, for the first time, reveals this, it calls into question everything that she said before. Everything.
One thing has nothing to do with the other thing. Yeah, we were young, we experimented, but that has nothing to do with what Vincent did. That's two separate incidents. That's two separate things.
The twins insist they are the victims, wounded by what happened, and they blame the legal system for not ensuring that Simmons' unanimous conviction was irrefutable. They know the challenge that they're facing.
My thing is this, because of what maybe should have been done, that wasn't done, the things we should have said, and we didn't say,
also,
and what we didn't say.
Our word is against his. There's no evidence,
and
so it would be hard to fight it.
If the judge orders a new trial, are you both willing to testify at the trial?
Oh, absolutely. I will testify.
Karen?
No.
I'm
not doing it. I've already been there. We've done this. Why am I going to put myself in that position again and take the chance of him walking out?
Because right now, anyway, we're at a 50-50 that he could walk out anyway. So if we go to court, we're still at the same odds.
I'm not going to put myself and my family back through that either, Sharon. Don't you get it? It doesn't matter.
Because if we don't and we back down now, then it gives the world more of an opportunity to say they're lying, and that's why they're backing down.
Sharon,
they don't
it doesn't matter anymore. The world's going to think what they want to think. No matter how hard we fight, it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
It doesn't.
I want him to be miserable for the rest of his remaining days.
Sharon, guess what? There's coming a day when he'll stand before God and he will be miserable. He's already been judged guilty. He will die guilty. And when he goes and he stands before the Lord, he will still be guilty. Okay?
All right, Karen.
So here's what happens next. Next Monday, a judge will decide whether or not to grant Vincent Simmons a new trial. That judge has already said that there's a constitutional violation in which Simmons was convicted without all of the evidence being given to his defense team. If the judge declares a new trial, sources say the district attorney will not retry Vincent Simmons because he believes he'd probably lose.
So let me get this straight. Keith is the cousin?
That's right.
And originally it was reported that Keith was locked in the car.
That's right.
And now we're finding out that Keith had apparently had sex with one of the sisters that was never revealed.
Karen says that. Keith denies it.
There is a air of racism that hangs over this whole case. I'm curious whether the sisters said to you in a different clip that, oh, they're not racist. Yes, they use the N-word. Yes, they said all black people look alike, but that's not them. Did they deny that in any way?
The sisters do not believe they are racist. They admitted saying all black people, all N-words look alike, and they say it without sort of wincing, right? Growing up in South Louisiana, I can tell you back in 1977 with the KKK where it was, there definitely are hints of racism in various parts of the state. Was racism baked into this? One of the jurors, the only black woman who was on that case, says when she walked into the room, she said, the white men looked at me and they said, doesn't matter what you think. Yeah, he's guilty.
I'm still stunned by the cousin revelation. I find
Everybody
that,
too.
yeah, I'm
That's
still stunned by that.
And no physical evidence
To connect them, yes.
Spellbinding.
David,
Wow.
I'm glad you hit that.
Yo, listen, everybody, trust and believe. Rich, I'm gonna let you get a little 2-minute comment on it. We're gonna pick this up next week. We have definitely gone past our time.
Bill,
Rich, if you're welcome to come,
something like that.
Yeah, but see,
it's messed up, though. But I gotta go too.
Oh, God's name, you gonna show something like that?
But Rich, this how you get the viewers to come back, brother. But now
I gotta go to sleep on that.
Rich, I found a good video for you. I could give you afterwards.
Yeah. So
Kevin,
listen, Rich. Rich, if you're free,
Kevin, don't do it. Don't do it.
Rich, that's what he's doing.
Hey, listen, can I spend my 2 minutes?
Can we get Jerry's video for Richard?
Go.
And we both get 2 minutes.
Well, the bottom line is I want you to get 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna give it to Kevin. But then I'm gonna invite you back. I know I extended the olive branch. You're always welcome to come back now, absolutely. But the thing is, we're going to show that video again. Only reason I would stay on it, but we were just so immersed in our conversation and it was so good that I wasn't able to get to this video. But I just wanted to get everybody a taste of what the hell is going on with this situation. So yeah, give me 2 minutes. Rock with whatever you want to feel. Kev, you can rebuttal, and then Rich, give us some positive affirmation to come out. But next week we're going to pick this up, and I promise I'll start this video off with the show. So go ahead, Rich.
Okay, that video, right, is one of thousands, hundreds of thousands of cases throughout the history of a black man of being accused of doing something like that to a white woman in a time where a black man was afraid to even look a white man in the eye. Right? And get accused of something like that and get lynched, burned, killed, imitated.
Yes.
Right? This is just one in a long history of the relationship of African Americans in this country that cannot just be dismissed like it never happened or justified to it being what they say it is, when all the evidence points elsewhere. How do you, and like I said, I'm 61. I grew up in a time where when I went south, there was signs, whites only, blacks only, where you had to be careful of what you said out of your mouth and had to listen to the kind of talk and treatment that you were given as a black child, let alone grown man, to have to be treated like a child, right? And I'm gonna leave this to let you know that not much has changed, right?
No, yeah.
I have a friend of mine, close friend of mine. He was a school teacher. He was also an actor. He was in films like Lethal Weapon. He played the cop that was hanging upside down when they shot him. He did some TV shows. He has about 50 TV shows on his reel, right? Anyway, he goes down south right? South Carolina, to film an episode of a TV show. While in this town, when they on their break, they're going into the towns, going to eat, whatever. So he's in town, dark-skinned brother. Old white man walks up to him. He says, excuse me, Mr. Nigga, can you tell me where I can find the so-and-so store? And my friend looked at this old white man, and he said he couldn't do anything but laugh, because that white man genuinely thought he was being polite.
Right.
By addressing him with Mr. Nigga.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. Kev.
I'm going to leave mine there.
Kev, give us Kevin's rebuttal.
There's no rebuttal.
well, the bottom line is
I'm not defending that.
No. I'm just saying. Just give us a brief synopsis of what you saw in the video.
I think Richard. I don't know which one of us was laughing harder with the comment about the handcuffs. I've done police line.
Yeah.
It would be different if there was a photo of the guy on the side handcuffed, and you said he wasn't cuffed or not. He's standing in the lineup.
In the middle.
In the middle. Cuffed.
Yeah.
I had an issue. I did a lineup once, and I didn't realize one guy had a gold chain as opposed to the other 5. And I had an issue. That's how serious these things are taken, right? The photo lineup was gold chain. That was the only difference. I did it and I missed it, and I could kick myself in the ass for missing it, because it matters. You can't leave one person with an earring on. One person can't have glasses on and nobody else has them.
Absolutely.
None of this works.
Yeah.
We had T-shirts, matching T-shirts that they were extra large that we threw over every guy.
Yes, absolutely.
So that they had the same thing. We actually had stupid hats too that people wore. If we didn't have hats that fit, we used white paper that was kind of rolled up, stapled, and put on the head like a dunce hat.
Yeah.
You saw in a movie 100 years ago. So this lineups are very, very serious in how they're done. Handcuffs is not a missable thing. You don't miss that.
Right.
And if I made that mistake, it would be documented day one, like when it was first noticed, not discussed 20 years later saying,
Kevin,
no, we know that was, we talked to them. They swear they had the cuffs.
But we can't even call these mistakes. These things are intentional.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A mistake is one thing,
Yeah.
We're talking about intent here.
Yeah.
Let me just read some comments before we get out of here. Eunice Collins, she says, "Take no offense, Kevin. It's a fact that white women love them some black women. Black men. Excuse me, love some black men." Alma said, in the voice of Cornel West, "Yes, race matters." Robert Rice told me to tell you what's up a long time ago, Rich. He told you what's up. But then he says, and Richard was because of wicked twins like these two. Kim Shear said, "Yeah, Bill, you sure did us dirty. Good salesman." Mahalia Betha said, the sex cousins, the N-word talk is part of American history. We can't be surprised. Kim Shear said, "Good night. Always a great conversations. Stuck in their racial ways." Yolanda says, "You're right, Kevin. Lineups are very important in your arrest case." Absolutely. Stefania said, "If they could sleep with their cousin, I don't put anything past their nasty twins." Stefania, they're going to burn in the pits of hell. With that being said, everybody, come back next week. Rich, come back, even if for a half an hour, 15 minutes to comment on this case, because I'm going to play it again from the top of the show. I know we usually don't go, but brother Colin said, come back. He needs you back. You are always welcome back. But I want you to come back next Wednesday if you can. Allot some time, free us some time, because we definitely went past our hours, and it is way past. Oh, you heard what the wife said. Oh shit. So I ain't trying to make my bed cold tonight.
Too late.
It's already lukewarm. But
I'm about to get karate chopped by Sister Brenda up there.
Absolutely. But But Rich, before we get out of here, or everybody's saying, Rich, come back. Rich, before what we always do, we always ask our guests, anybody to leave with positive affirmation. Give us a minute of positive affirmation. Kev, close us out. I'll finish it off. And then Rich, don't hang up because we're going to talk in the green room. So give us some positive affirmation. Give us a 1 good minute positive affirmation. Kev, finish it, and then I'll close it. Go ahead.
All right. Well, the positive part about this and the upside of this is that we are living in a world today where you can now speak to the injustices. We just can't get caught up in the cognitive dissonance of the whole thing. We can't act like it's not what it is.
Right.
If we stay there, nothing's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody's perfect. Everybody, I don't care who you are, have made mistakes in your life. And when you apologize to somebody, it's not even really for them. It's for you. Because I can say I'm sorry for whatever I've done. And you being the victim, you don't have to receive it.
Right.
But my apology is genuine only if I really want to change. I can't change the past, but I can change what I'm going to do next. Absolutely. So forget about what happened yesterday. It's about moving forward. What can we do today and tomorrow that's different than what we did before?
Amen. Kev?
First, Richard, thank you. Not just tonight, but for the man you are. I just met you tonight, and I appreciate all the stuff you're doing, and you've done. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a tough one to leave off of.
And that's
you really messed us up too, Bill. Like that
that's the business aspect of this thing. You got to come back to Real Talk Chronicles, baby, to get the rest of it next week, man. Until next week.
They call it a cliffhanger.
I got to
get JR.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's a question on the crime part of that, but yeah, you got me at a loss for words tonight. Well, my normal thing is one in life: take a break. Take a step back from your social media. Take a step back from the news. It's going to be here the next day when you come back to it. Do something with your life. Do something positive.
Absolutely.
Do something. Richard said about what you do today. It is. You don't have to do a grand thing today. You don't have to cure cancer tomorrow. But you can do something. We each have a little pay it forward in us. Yes. Take a little bit of time and pay it forward to somebody. Spend some time listening and hearing what they have to say. I enjoyed tonight for one respect because Bill took a lot of heat today. Normally it's me. So that was kind of fun. It's like shut up a lot today. I was like, I ain't say nothing. I put my feet up today.
Yo, I know you love that shit, man.
But we're here, we're talking. We disagreed, but we're all gentlemen in the end.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what it's about. We have to learn how to get past that part of we can have disagreement. We can have really angry disagreements, emotional disagreements. We're all still good people. We're all still fighting for good things. We're getting there, and we'll get better at it.
Absolutely. Everybody, listen, first and foremost, I want to thank all my real talkers. I appreciate you all for chiming in. Listen, the comments and the conversation has been awesome. Rich, if you can go back because we are Facebook friends. You can look at all from the Facebook aspect. The YouTube aspect may be different. From the Facebook aspect, you can see all the people wanting you to come back definitely next week, and converse about this situation. Everybody, the first Monday of every month, we have Assemblyman Al Taylor. The second Monday of this month, we have Dr. Marilyn Corder. This is the lineup. We're going to talk about maybe some mental illness thing because that's a big thing right now. We could have a touch on some COVID stuff, but we'll talk about that. The third Monday of the month, Allison Williams, the First Lady of Def Jam. She's doing well, but right now, this month, I'm celebrating Melba Wilson for Black History Month. She will be here. We'll discuss Melba's whole career and stuff like that. On the 22nd, I have Lenny Green from WBLS and Andy Smith. They're coming out. We might just do a little twist. I'm doing a special thing, edition, a little relationship thing. So I'll be here with Indy and Lenny Green of WBLS, The Quiet Storm. The fourth Monday of the month, Pastor Kevin Graves, Spiritual Talk, but we're doing something different for Black History Month. We have Leon Ellis, the owner of Chocolat, formerly of Mocha, Harlem Underground. I'm kind of give a little celebratory thing for them for Black History Month. And every Wednesday, we have Kevin and Chuck and Kevin, and we talk what we talk, real talk. It's always real talk. Tomorrow, I'm doing a special edition. I'm being honored for my promotional acronym, along with some other people in the promotional world. And I'm doing just a special edition tomorrow from 7 to 8 on the award ceremony. So if you want to chime in and check that out, you're more than welcome. This is Real Talk Chronicles. Subscribe to it on YouTube. So, share it on Facebook. Everybody, please share it. Let people know what's happening. This is a movement right now. I always got to thank my lovely wife, Malika Forster, in the background, holding us down. Sister Brenda's behind you, B. Kevin, them kids, my little nieces and nephews. It's all good. Everybody, Rich, stay on. We're going to talk in the green room real quick. Everybody, see you next Wednesday. I promise you, we will pick right up from that video, and we will discuss that video. I got a lot to
video,
say.
Kevin.
I got a lot to say about that. I got a lot to say about that. We're going into the green room, fellas. Everybody, real talk. Keep it real.
You can look in our private chat. I put it in.